You want to ride? You take a ride on the left-hand side. You hold on tight. You're gone.
Oh my gosh. Did you just like inject caffeine into your veins?
I actually had a coffee drop, like a little coffee, like, you know, those lemon candies that you get in a can that always have powder on them. This is a one that has powder on it. It's but it's coffee drop from the beautiful candy store in Port Colborne that you once saw, Beckham. We got honey sticks there once.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So do you want to just go in to
Yes, please.
this? And here we go again. Episode 2 of Yore Stories. This morning started off as a shit show. I got to be honest. I was trying to get my daughter online for her uke lesson. Passwords weren't working. That worked for the past year. Trying to basically find the cord for my microphone that is usually always in the same drawer. Then I had mum guilt thoughts of thinking, should I just be spending time on my weekends with my daughter instead of doing this podcast? But then the mic turned on. I heard my co-host's voices.
Hi.
Along with the sound of the ukulele subtly tinkling in the background. I took a deep breath and we had one of the loveliest interviews with one of our musical guests, which, I'll tell you about in a little bit. So I guess I'm just on fire thinking about and the anticipation of it all for the next interview. So today our guests are composed of the lovely Tiffany Jarva, otherwise known as TJ Hex.
My mother.
And your mother. So this is going to be a treat. And our musical guest is the always ever inspiring Brandon Agnew toward the end of the show, sharing a song that he newly released on his album Mave's Variety a couple of weeks ago. And wow, what a trip that interview was. We got up early this morning, hey guys, and recorded that.
Early? It was only 11 o'clock.
Early for me.
I think early for Beckham, because Beckham's always up late, right?
Yeah, Rita, we were texting late, and I was surprised you were up.
Well, it all of a sudden hit me, like, did we send the link to Squadcast out?
And I didn't, so thank you for texting me.
Well, you got two mothers, hey?
Yeah.
And thanks for being on it. It worked out perfectly because we were able to just make sure that it was all working, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's going pretty smooth now. It was a little bumpy at the start, but
it was a little bumpy at the start, but wait.
Yeah, a little too early for Squadcast, maybe.
Guys, I just have our backup. I just started recording that. So I hope we got all that.
Yeah, we got all that.
Okay, good. See, we're all just kind of flying by the seat of our pants here because it's a lot. I know we all have other lives outside of this. What's that?
I said we're supposed to be wearing pants.
Oh my God. Well,
I'm not wearing pants.
That's your business. You've been laid off for a little while. Hey, Jesse. So, well, not
Jesse,
laid off.
Jesse got laid off?
Not laid off. His job just is not opening.
It disappeared.
It just disappeared. It just vanished.
What is your job?
What is my job? I work for the government now. And they pay me the money I paid them.
To do what, though?
He was still working at the printing house that we worked at. And they closed their doors at that location.
Yep, I knew that.
So that was his job, graphic designing stuff, just as I do. So he does work with me with oomph, and we get him some work, right, Jesse?
Mm-hmm.
Again,
and now you're doing this.
Enough about work, schmirk. We got an awesome podcast.
That's a Monday job.
That's what we used to say when clients would come into the printing house on Fridays in a rush panic. Jesse would always look and go, That's a Monday job.
Oh,
That's awesome. And I try to use that with my freelance biz, but I am always usually accessible too. But not right now. Not while I'm recording a podcast. Forget that.
I want to say hi to all of our like top viewership in Burlington.
Oh, really?
That's where like the majority of our listeners are.
In Burlington?
Yeah. Next to Thunder Bay, but that's probably just me listening to it over and over again.
But in Burlington, because I'm in Niagara.
Yeah, Niagara is
I think
6th on the list.
that's weird because
And Welland is 7th.
because you think
Niagara
Welland
folk,
would have
come on.
more. Because I listen to it, you listen to it, and
Yeah.
we only come up with like 5 views or something, maybe.
Yeah. To be honest, I only listened to it, I listened to it before we released.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to it once after the release. But sometimes it's hard. I feel like that with my own album too. I can't really listen to the sound of my own voice sometimes.
That's a lot of people, I think.
Well, that's great. Thanks for checking those stats. And who knew podcast making would be so fun?
Yeah,
And
right?
it's even more fun with the two of you in tow. I love that on the first podcast, we interviewed my mom and the talented Ms. Emily Andrews, and she shared a song from her band Electric Wildlife, which you can still hear on all of our streaming platforms that are in our links. And I can't believe that I learned that my mom had a pet seagull. And I never knew that story.
Right.
That fascinated me. I'm overwhelmed by our listeners' response. It's incredible to me that how many people have taken the time to listen to 2 hours of us just talking and sharing.
Right? It's incredible, I think.
Well, it really makes me realize even more the importance of sharing some feel-good stories during this hard time for everybody. And I want to say, guys, there's a lot of work behind the scenes here. And I just want to thank you two, Jesse and Beckham, for your editing skills, for being so quick to respond to my messages. And you're both very valued on this journey with me. And so anyway, thanks for
well, thank you for giving me something to do and look forward to.
Me too.
well, what would you be doing if you weren't doing that?
The birds.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
playing video games.
Looking at the birds like you're with your cats and playing video games. Well, I'm glad I'm getting you off playing video. I don't know, the whole video game thing. That's a whole other rant. But I feel
I think
like
you still have one of my games, Rita. You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
still play that?
Oh, yeah. So Mario, we have nothing to play it on
Oh,
anymore because
What Mario?
that's a whole other story. But the Wii left out the door when somebody left. So basically, yeah, we don't really have a Wii. Anyone want to give us a Wii?
Okay.
I could probably lend you one if you want.
I have an
Oh.
extra Wii.
Look at that. See, you always just got to ask. Like I
Yeah.
thought of using Facebook as just like a bargain hunter. Just like
Can
not
you give me stuff?
basically, or even sharing stuff. I have
Yeah.
these. Do you want them? And I mean, it's
That's
great that
my
they came out with
favorite thing.
Marketplace.
That's my favorite, like, video game stuff, like trading people and like switching.
Yeah. And records too. Records are
it's-
fun. I want to start a
yeah.
little like record swapping group.
That's cool. Yeah, like a book swap, but records.
Any way to build community, which I'm realizing that's what this podcast.
And that's-
if
can
we
I
had a
say,
theme, that's what
that's-
this podcast themes is about.
That's like a lot of things. Is community is a lot more important than sometimes than the actual thing. Like music, the community around music, right? The podcast, the community around the podcast. Even though the podcast is a lot of fun, I think the feedback makes me a lot more excited to do it.
Community is so important, and it's really cool because both of our guests for today's show are really mindful of that and do want to help elevate the vibration in that regard. And I've always wanted to do more for community building, and I'm realizing that this is a great vessel to be able to do
both involved in community building within the arts as well. My mom being a journalist and a magazine creator, and and then we have the musical guest, right?
Yeah, and the musical guest. So it really is. And it's a great format, too, because we can delve into deeper subjects. But the beauty about a podcast is that you can edit things out. Like how many times I say fantastic in a show. And
it is pretty fantastic that you can edit it.
It is pretty fantastic. But I am thinking about different words like brilliant, glorious, lovely. If anybody has any other outstanding words that they can share with me, that would be great, because I need those fillers.
Well, maybe we can just come up with a list of F words.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing. Like, I wanted to kind of just say that my morning was a bit of a shit show. Am I allowed to say that, or are we going to have to bleep that out? What's the censorship
here? Content warning.
Oh, right. We're good. So that's great. So all kidding aside, I do like this format. When I was on the radio back in the day, fresh out of Confederation College's television and radio broadcast program, I landed a job by fluke to be a part of a morning show. The Kicks Outlaw Morning Crew. And I had great co-hosts that guided me because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And, but it ended up that at that time, of course, it's live. You can't edit things out like you can with a podcast. And my program director was so intrigued by the crazy things that happened to me on a daily basis that he ended up kind of basing the intro to me joining them every show on what did you do last night? So I would share stories of my horse being castrated, which, and we had some interesting listeners that loved the vibe of that, right?
I'm still confused. What do you mean?
What is castration?
Yeah, what is castration?
Oh, do you really want me to explicitly describe that?
It's like when you get your dog fixed.
Yeah. Oh. But they actually take like a rubber thing onto balls.
Yeah. But why? Is it just getting neutered?
Yeah. It's getting neutered. Yeah.
But what's the story behind it? Like, is there something super interesting or just that's it?
That's it. That was really it was just like, okay, there were more interesting stories, like the time that, and I'm never ever late for work. I'm a very punctual person. I won't be early.
I worked with Rita for 5 years. She was never late.
I won't. Well, if I was, the boss would like, oh, you're late, but other people could be late and it was fine. But anyway, sorry, Stefan, but that happened. Anyways, my program director, and my sidekick, they thought it was hilarious and laughable. And I'll tell you a funny episode that happened to me because, and I didn't cover this before, right, guys? Where I actually showed up late for work. Did I tell you this story ever?
I've heard the story, but
I have not.
No? Okay.
Oh.
I'm here. Can I be here?
I guess we're just going to go with it.
I'm here.
You're not supposed to show up for 6 minutes, Tiffany.
Yeah.
You told me 10 minutes in advance, and
No, just to make sure everything works. But like,
Okay,
is there no communication in that household?
Leave.
Bye. No,
don't leave. Just stay here.
You're so cute. Want to hear a story? Want to hear Rita's story?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going right into your interview. So it's actually perfect timing. It's like you just popped up like a little magical fairy. And I loved it. Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany.
Maybe I'm going to turn. I don't want to watch myself telling stories, though. Can I turn this off?
Yeah, I'm going to turn mine off, too. I did mine earlier, but I'll hide it because I didn't really do my hair. It might be my hair throwing you off. Hey, Tiffany?
Left bottom.
Well, I look very, brown because,
You've been out in the sun, hey?
Well, yeah, I've been doing...
On your canoe.
Well, yeah, that. And I've been doing everything except my report cards. You know how it is.
Just give everyone A's.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Pay for effort during a pandemic. Yeah.
I actually think they all should be anyway, but that's a whole other story. We can get into that in a bit. But I want to talk about me right now. No, I was just telling them the story, Tiffany, when I was live on air. And I'm usually punctual. You know, I would never be extremely late for work. I would be there on time. I wouldn't be there early because time is precious and I got lots to do in this life. But so here I am living in Kekabeka Falls, which is about 45-minute drive from my work on the hill where Tiffany works.
Can you sing the Kekabeka song for Jessie?
Oh, I've heard it.
Oh, okay.
But she could sing it for everyone else.
I don't think we're censored for that. Do you want me to sing it right now? Can we bleep it out?
Are we actually recording? Like, is this part of it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We were recording our intro when you showed up.
Oh, I interrupted it?
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. We were
So
at
we're
the
actually
end.
recording it. So
Yeah.
we might have to cut that little part out.
Well, it's kind of
okay.
funny because Rita was talking about being late and then you showed up early.
Actually, we probably won't cut any of
Anyone
that.
who knows me, like, I'm always on time for work, but maybe not so much on time when
No.
it comes to leisurely things.
Yeah.
Like, we are always like an hour late.
Not an
to, like,
hour.
active-
That's hyperbole, Beckham. Come on.
I remember we used to go to dinner all the time, and you would say, I would ask, when are we going to dinner? And you would say like 5, and we would show up at 6. Or if it was 6, we would show up at 7.
I know you can't see me right now, but I am shaking my head. No, that is not correct. Anyway, sorry, Rita. Go ahead about your Kekabeka Falls story.
Oh, do you want me to sing the Kekabeka song?
Well, I think
And
you
can we
better
bleep
now.
it out? I guess I have to now.
I think
Oh my
so.
God, you guys. But guys, it's very kind of explicit. I don't think if you remember the lyrics,
Just
I'm
do
not
it.
going to go to there. I'm going to Kekabeka Falls. I'm going to Kekabeka Falls. The girl at the diner likes to, and that's all I'm going to end it right there. So bad. So bad.
And so
How was
that just reminded me of singing while we were floating on tubes down the Kam 2 summers ago, 3
Oh,
summers
yes.
ago. And we had like a little impromptu like Bible song sing
Oh my
along.
gosh! Because one of the girls that was tubing with us was just talking about her life being raised with organized religion, right? And you know, but then just doing how heavy that can be sometimes and confusing. We were just talking about that because I said the word prayer
And then
in my interview. And for me, prayer, I just want to say, Beckham, I just want to say it honestly means just putting good thoughts out there.
yes. And I
So
understand
I feel like
that
we still have to keep that
completely.
in. Yeah.
And then we were singing the Bible songs, right?
Yeah.
Well,
And do you wanna
mostly my
sing that?
mom. Yeah, mom.
Oh dear.
Because she remembers this at Sunday school and then somebody else remembered it at Sunday school. And
Well, I guess, what had happened was we were all having a communal dinner, right? Sky and Beckham prepared a lovely meal for us, and Chanel
Right.
was here. And then for some reason, I decided it was time to sing the song I learned at Bible Camp, Aurora Bible Camp, which
Right.
was rise and shine and give God the glory, glory, rise and shine and give God the glory, glory, rise and shine and give God the glory, glory, children of the Lord.
And
Way to go,
then
sister.
and then later,
Please
like
cut
I think
that.
a week
I don't think
later.
so.
No, and then a week later, we went to my friend's mom's wedding.
Yes.
And
Good.
and you gave the best performance of that song ever.
You know how at weddings, you have to sing a song so that the newlyweds will kiss?
Yeah.
That was my song.
Yeah.
That was yours.
And it was the funniest thing ever.
You were telling about us about this during our river rat rental little,
and that's why
down the
it came
cam.
up. Yeah, that's why it came up during the river rat floating.
Oh, eating the best sandwiches, singing "Rise and Shine." So do you know I woke up Sky the other day, opened the curtain, and sang that? Well, we're counting down the days. I got to tell you, like, it has not been an easy switch, from a very, very, two different teachers with teacher styles and 6 weeks left of school. It was, we've been counting down the days, and she deserved a little bit of oomph in her day. But yeah, I loved river ratting. Hopefully we can do that again.
Oh, I hope
soon.
so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse, he's missed out on all of the actions, because there are actions that go with that, right? Like with your hands going, like, it's fun.
Well, we can take a photo shoot of you and use that for some of our social posts if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Because I'm shameless.
It will be a step by step. We'd have to like put a tube in your backyard, and you just got to sit on it and fake that it's like Sky had to do like a Louis Riel project that we filmed last week, and we were too lazy to bring the canoe to the canal. So I'm trying to just fake it on the grass. You have to get down real low. You got to,
Yeah, you do.
So okay. I mean, now it feels like there's so much more I want to talk about with you, and my story seems silly, but I gotta finish it.
Oh yeah, please. Sorry for interrupting.
So picture this. My boss. It's crazy because I've met a lot of celebrities working in radio when I worked in Thunder Bay and then in Calgary. So I kind of get some of those things mixed up. And for me, celebrities are just people. So I'm never really awe-stricken by any of them by any means. I mean, they're just beautiful people. So I don't remember who it was, but he asked me to go to a concert. I believe it was Paul Brandt, and get his autograph. And because I live 45 minutes from town, like maybe even longer from Kekabeka, Highway 590 to the Hill, that's a far drive, right? And so I don't usually speed, but this day I had to be on the air, I think at like 5 a.m., you guys, 5 a.m. And I was 20 years old. And I had my little Dodge Colt car, and I tell you, that car went so fast one day, so I wasn't late. This is going to turn into two stories, I'm realizing. But I ended up getting a ticket. A woman cop pulled me over, and I thought, oh, no, I'm in trouble. I'm getting a ticket for sure. Because there is a stigma with it. You can kind of get away when a male cop pulls you over as opposed to a female. It's just, and so I ended, now I hope I don't get pulled over if some cops hear this podcast. But basically, I ended up bringing it up on the show, because our shows were based around the crazy stories of my life, believe it or not, Tiffany. I don't know if I shared that with you, but I was saying that to the guys before you joined in. And so the program director would just basically say, what have you done last night? Or what have you? So there were stories about like my horse being castrated, which we've already gone over. And so this particular day, I got a big ticket, and I wasn't speeding that much. So it was kind of unfair of a ticket, in my opinion. I think it was like 10 over, which everyone goes 10 over. And anyway, there was no way talking it out. And it was a little too crazy, this ticket. And I hadn't had many offenses or anything, right? And I was trying to get to work to be on air on the radio. So anyway, we opened up the phone lines that day for people to help pay for my ticket. But that same day, I guess somebody in the office ran into that cop on the golf course, and they were not very impressed with me. So that's one story. And then there was the time I was actually late for work, and I slept through my alarm. And
that is the worst feeling in the world, especially as a teacher. I will tell you that. Anyway, I don't even know.
Has that happened to you?
Oh yeah. It was awful.
And your class is waiting for you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Am I allowed to interject right now?
Yeah.
I'm sleeping. I'm so cozy in my bed. And the phone rings and I see it says Agnew, the school I was at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, why is Agnew calling me? And why is his son up right now? What's going on? And the secretary just says, hi, Tiffany. It's so-and-so. I can't remember her name right now. Yeah. Are you coming to work today? Like deadpan. I'm like, oh my God, I'll be there. Because I had planning right at the beginning of the day. So I was supposed to be at work for something like 8:30. And this is 10 after 9 because we have 40 minutes of planning. But no one had noticed I wasn't there, right? Because I was taking over for another teacher. So then I showed up all sheepishly and my VP was in there.
Okay, your story's even more pressure than mine. You have I couldn't see who my listeners were, and it probably brought the ratings up. But this is
driving there too. It's the worst feeling in the world. I mean, I probably should have been pulled over, but I wasn't. And anyway, sorry, Rita. I didn't mean to interrupt. And I didn't mean to trump your story.
You can always interrupt.
I'm going to interject because I had to mute myself because I was laughing so hard because I found the video of you singing at the wedding I want to play it.
Oh no.
I don't know if you can hear that. Wait.
How many drinks were you knew then?
Oh man, too many apparently.
Teacher.
Bad teacher. That was the summer though. It was summer holiday.
That was the summer, and teachers need to have a few bevies to unwind. That's for sure, right? This isn't I'm not advocating that by any means.
No,
that was a good interjection, I'd have to say.
Because I couldn't stop laughing at it.
Right. Yeah. So, Tiffany, I think that you summoned the gospel gods there.
That's what I was saying. I don't understand how she did that.
Yeah. You've just been showing up to my CD releases, but I'm going to throw you on a mic next time. Hey?
I don't know. That was a fluke. I think probably because I sang it so many times at Bible camp, I actually could carry the tune. I rarely can carry a tune.
But you were high octave. That was
impressive. So when I realized I was late for work, you know what happened? My phone rang. Same thing.
Yeah.
And it was my program director, and he said, "Hey, Rita." I'm like, "Hey, all sleepy? What's going on? You coming to work today?" And then he asked me another question. I don't remember what it was, but I realized I am live on air. I am live on air, sleeping in. Okay, so that's kind of crazy. Yeah, but a funny story.
That is
crazy. I realize crazy moments just become funny stories, and why not? So, okay, I want to intro you officially here, okay?
Oh, because you're not doing that separate? You're doing it, okay. I thought
No, we're just going to roll on in here, but now people know who you are. But I want to tell more about who you are because we have these listeners that are wondering, who is this little spirit of a woman with this cute voice that kind of sounds like Rita's, but not, because some people say we sound alike. I just want to say that I love sharing about my friend, Tiffany. I could be stuck in elevator with you, and I know you and I would make the best out of it. You are a friend that always has my back. You have flown out several times to visit when I couldn't afford a ticket home. You're always doing something new that inspires me. You've spent many years as a travel writer with experiences sliding down sand dunes in New Mexico and sailing tall ships and writing about it. As we've just discovered, you're also a school teacher. And I always wish I could be a fly on the wall in one of your classrooms, because the lessons you have shared with me, that you have shared with your students, I mean, I always feel there should be more teachers like you out there. And no wonder you were late. You put a lot of energy and you need some rest sometimes, teacher. On top of that, you're also an editor and a writer for 2 magazines, one which we started last year, and we'll get to that. But you're also one of the most excited outdoor enthusiasts I know, and one of the most powerful single moms that I know. You're a woman of sisu, which we'll also get to, and you've had a lot of peaks and valleys thrown at you, my friend, through the years, and you always land on your feet with a smile on your face, seeing the world from everyone's perspective around you and trying to find a deeper understanding. You're a girl that I giggle with like no other. And when I say girl, I mean that's because we tap in to this sort of inner child when we're together. And your kids tap into it too. And hanging out with the 4 of us just feels so paramount in my life. I can't wait to see you guys soon. We're going to be camping together on the North Shore, the 4 of us, which will be, what's one of my words? Glorious. And we have our own sayings together, don't we, Tiffany?
We do.
We're always making each other laugh. What are some of our sayings? I think your son threw one at me last night, actually, in text when you didn't send out the invite for Squadcast. He said, "Never me mind." It's a good one. It's a good one. I think we really all developed that on a car ride together, didn't we?
I think you guys were here visiting a couple of summers ago. And I think I said, never mind me, but I switched it up. I was like, never me mind. And
never me mind.
Before we all knew it, it was kind of like our catchphrase for the entire trip.
It really is our catchphrase.
And now it kind of sticks.
Yeah. Really, you are the creator of the catchphrases. You never, ever show up to visit me without a few wigs. Yeah. In your suitcase, and we've had New Year's parties where we all pass the wig. And remember the time that you showed up, and where did we drive through? Beamsville? Oh,
did you stop to get donuts?
Yeah, right. Because Jesse's from around there.
We were at that art gallery, and there's that pink Cadillac, and I was getting pictures taken. So my friend Shelley was handing me off to you because I have these amazing friends in Southern Ontario who I will go and visit, and then they'll drive me to my next destination and sort of hand me off. And there was like that pink Cadillac, and I think that
it was a Mary Kay car.
Yeah. It was a Mary Kay car, and Jeff had some artwork at a gallery that was there. I can't remember the name of that little town though.
I think it was Grimsby.
Maybe that sounds about right.
Well,
yeah,
Grimsby and Beamsville are.
Yeah, they're
right
pretty
beside
much
each other.
They're pretty close. Next time you come, we're going to the Beamsville Bakery because Jesse's mom used to bring in the best donuts at work when we worked together, and they were from the Beamsville Bakery.
Nice.
Yeah. So here we are walking down the street. You have a bunch of wigs with you. We've had a few trips with wigs. We always, when I'm in town, we always throw a costume party.
Yeah.
And then we saw, as we're walking or driving by, we were just leaving, and we saw on a sandwich board written "Wigs, wigs, wigs."
Yeah, we did. That was pretty funny. Yeah.
So that's one of our
sayings. Yeah.
Wigs, wigs, wigs.
Wigs, wigs, wigs.
Yeah, the world kind of works around us, or maybe it's just because we can basically find entertainment anywhere we go. That's probably what it is.
I
right?
hope so. I brought some wigs with us canoeing in Quetico Park. And so our last day canoeing out, remember Beckham? We were all wearing wigs. Oh, Beckham was wearing a hot dog hat or something like that. So fun. Why not?
Do we have pictures of that we can share?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
That would be great. Speaking of pictures, I asked you to tap into your inner child and go through some photos, and you sent me some really beautiful ones. And one that softly promoted this podcast. But you were looking for one and you couldn't find it. Did you end up finding it?
I didn't. And I think we talked about this. Well, I know we talked about this briefly, that I had in my mind this picture of me blowing a bubble, wearing like a pink frilly 70s outfit, like overalls, with one pant leg tucked into boys' rubber boots that were a little bit too big for me, and stomping around in puddles. And I'm like, I think, if you're going to sum me up, that's probably it. But I think I might have made that photo up because I couldn't find it. However, I found two different ones.
Right.
That I sent to you.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's funny sometimes we have memories in our minds and we wonder, is that from a picture? Or was that just from a moment where I had the picture in my mind?
Yeah. Memory's a funny thing, right?
I'd love to try to sketch that if I was a better illustrator for you.
Oh, that would be lovely.
That would be really cute. Maybe in my retirement.
Maybe. Like your mom.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the way we met, we were backdoor neighbors in Thunder Bay for a while and not even knowing how cool the other person was on the other side of the fence, because we were both dating recluse people at the time, right?
Yeah, quiet people, not super social. And I moved in, to be fair to you, I moved in pregnant. I was pregnant with Beckham. And so that's like 17 years ago. And you weren't like pregnant. You didn't have kids. So I could see how, you see this pregnant woman moving into the neighborhood, not feeling like, oh, I want to be her friend.
Well, no, that was never ever a thought. I just thought I can't really become too friends with like couples, because I was dating quite a recluse. I mean, he had a Studio 10. We were, the little singing duo of Thunder Bay at the time. And I still hold all of those moments dearly close to my heart. But I spent a lot of time, honestly, just gardening. I would get together and socialize with people, but I think I also too was a bit of a recluse. So I was entertained actually mostly by the cats in the neighborhood. One being your cat, Kangas. And Kangas, when I was gardening, Kangas would just run around my peonies and pretend to attack me and then run back behind my peonies. And he was the funniest, silliest little cat, to the point where I didn't even know this was your cat at first. Right. And then I started tuning in, because I would keep my door open for my cats, and my cats were like, what the heck's going on? Because I would find him in my living room on my chair, and I'd be like, I think I have another cat.
No sense of loyalty with that cat, I tell you. Like that cat is the most well-traveled cat I think I ever had. So I adopted that cat when I was in Ottawa doing my undergrad. Mm-hmm. And at the time we were in like a tall building. What would you call that? I can't think of it right now, but
skyscraper?
Not a skyscraper. Anyway,
a tall building.
A tall building. And so he couldn't be an outdoor cat when we were in that tall building, but he was so cute. Like he would fetch. He always had like a personality. And then once I graduated from Carleton, I moved out west, and then Kangas came with us out west. And we were in a smaller apartment building. So we had a patio, and he wanted to be outside so badly that there was like, we were on the second floor, but there was a truck with a canopy on it. And Kangas just decided one day he was going for it. He like zipped off the pad.
No way.
Yeah. And then he like landed on the top of the truck and skidded almost to the end and stopped and looked at me. And from
That's like something out of a movie.
it was.
Yeah.
He's a daredevil.
Yeah.
Stuntman.
Yeah, he was pretty hilarious. And then one time he was missing for like a day or two, and all of a sudden I heard, like, I would leave my bedroom window open because it was kind of up where the staircase was.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I heard like ding, 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 meow. I look out my window and there's Kangas, and he has like a new collar that says, "Hello, my name is Zippy." And a phone number.
Hello, my name is Zippy.
I'm like, your name isn't Zippy. And so I call the phone number on.
This is awesome.
And then so I call the number. I'm like, "Oh, hi. I think you're mistaking my cat for your cat, Zippy." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we figured that he belonged to someone because he looked really well cared for. He just comes and zips in and eats. Might get like, a little snuggle in and then zips back out." And like, oh
my God, he is so zippy.
He's so zippy.
Damn.
So that's Kangas /Zippy, Rita, who was visiting you and who brought us together. And the cool thing too about Kangas, oh my gosh, your listeners are going to think I'm a crazy cat lady. I'm going to get through this really quickly.
But we do have another cat story that we might end the show with. We'll bring up the perfect timing for that one.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. So Kangas too is a Finnish word, right? Like in Thunder Bay, we have
And
Kangas
you are
sauna,
Finnish.
and I'm Finnish, and there's Kangas
Jarva.
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 Yeah, there's a Kangas sauna here, right? And so
I love Kangas.
that's when I named Kangas. My understanding, my Finn isn't so great, that Kangas means something of the earth, of the land. It's something like that. Flash forward a few years, because I was out in North Vancouver for about 8 years. Kangas really does go missing for a few days, like almost a week. And I'm sad, and I'm putting up posters. I remember playing tennis and coming home and plastering up all these posters. And then I get a call, and it was from a young couple that was about 3 blocks down the road on 4th Street in North Van. And they're like, "We think we have your cat Kangas. And by the way, are you from Thunder Bay?" I'm like, "What?"
Oh, that's so great.
They were from Thunder Bay, and they're like, "Yeah, we recognize the name Kangas. There's a Kangas sauna in Thunder Bay." I'm like, yeah. And so I went and got Kangas /Zippy from a young couple who was from Thunder Bay. What a small
that is
world.
a great story. Leads into
Small
that
world.
6 steps of Thunder Bay we always talk about.
Yeah, 6 degrees, right?
6 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Kangas. Nice
Zippy.
homage to
Yeah.
Kangas. So when we met that, I think I basically came up to you over the fence because, I like how you described it as it was like Tim and his neighbor from Tim the Toolman. How we just talk over the fence. And I said, "I think like your cat might be hanging out at my place a lot." And then we got to talk. Huh?
Like, really, my cat?
Right.
Shocking.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. And
Yeah.
then I didn't know, but I recently discovered that I used to give you a lot of gardening tips. So, and so that conversation led into us getting together. And I think we both needed a friend at the time because we were going through some heartache. And so we met for tea in the afternoon. And then it turned into a 3-day camping hike to Tea Harbor on the Sleeping Giant.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you did lots of camping when you lived out west, Rita, but you had never done backcountry. That was your first backcountry trip? I'd
always, I grew up on the island where we had the cabin and Coleman lanterns and such. So it was still roughing it, but no, I never just, it was always campgrounds. And so going with you, there was pretty special because I had never camped on the Giant before.
Right. Right. Yeah, and we
And-
carried everything in our backpacks, and that's a great first time out in the backcountry because you're not too far, and it's in our backyard, right? Like the giant is right there. If your listeners don't know what we're talking about, the sleeping giant in Lake Superior, which we can see from Thunder Bay,
right? The Nana Bijou.
yeah, which just looks like a big giant sleeping. It's funny, growing up, we used to camp there. My aunt would take me camping, and she would say, "Oh, we're on the Giant's Adam's apple right now," or
Right. Oh, I love that.
We'd have to hold our breath and not be noisy because we didn't want to wake up the giant. It was super cute.
Oh, yeah, as a kid, right?
Yeah.
I just remember hearing there's so many different versions of the tales of the giant, too, which I've always wanted to know the real story. I've always heard different renditions. We should really look into that.
Yeah. There are different tales from different points of view, and it's kind of fun to dig into that kind of stuff for sure.
It really
Isn't
is.
it? He was trying to protect the silver
Yeah.
on Silver Islet,
Yeah. Right.
and he laid down.
There's so many variations, and I don't want to get stuck in saying the wrong thing, but it's definitely something that maybe we'd feature in Steakta. So here we are, how many years later, and last year, during the downtrodden, shocking times of we're in a pandemic, where sometimes I would not reach out to people because I can be a bit of a hermit. And I always feel you're one of the people that I always gravitate to the most to tell me a silly story, hence why you're on episode 2 of Yore Stories, to just alleviate worry in my heart. And I always love the way that you see the world, and you always sit on the fence, Tiffany. That's one thing that you have, you see everything from everybody's perspective. And it's interesting because I'm realizing the puzzle piece of our 2 guests today. You're both very much like that, getting a deeper understanding of where everybody's coming from. And I really value that. So we started a newspaper. What is your recollection? I don't even know. Beckham was a big part of it. One night we just had this brainstorm where we really should start this.
April.
It was in April
2020. It was I can't remember, but it was not early. It was
Right.
Probably right after dinner. We called.
Yeah.
And from probably 5 to 10 o'clock, we did a bunch of stuff for it.
And released it. It's something that I had been talking about for years, wanting a story of good news. And originally I pictured a little guy on the street corner and, in a little cap, in the old days, saying, "Gets you good news for 75 cents, or 25 cents, or a nickel, whatever." But, that's the way I kind of envisioned this, just sharing good news for people, because I feel like the more, we're inundated with bad news, right? So that's kind of my motivation for starting this. And then when you throw ideas out there into the world, it's incredible. And like we said earlier, the word synergy is cliche, but when you have a group of people there going, "Yeah, let's do this,"
Right.
It just.
And I think you had the idea of good news for a change, and I had said, "Oh, I felt like I saw a publication like that out west where." And it sounded, to get back to our religious theme, it sounded a little religious to me.
Right, because there is the good news little booklet. And we didn't want to be that because it's all encompassing.
Right. We didn't want to get confused with that in terms of the name. And then so sisu's always, and I thought about sisu. Sisu's a big word in the Finnish culture. It can mean multiple things. It's a very layered word, but it, essentially means inner strength, and it can mean moxie and stubbornness. Sometimes, those Finns can be a little stubborn.
It has been your coin word for, well, since I've known you, you had a sisu necklace, I believe. You gift sisu necklaces to people.
Because I have such amazing, strong friends who have inner strength. And even when Beckham was little, and my friend Tanya's boys were little, I made little onesies that said sisu on them. Yeah, they were cute. And
like sewed them?
No, I did I designed it on the computer and print, the iron on.
Oh, okay. So crafty.
Simple. Oh, yeah. I'm so crafty. I'm laughing because I'm not.
But well, you are so crafty in many ways. Nobody can take a story of a 1-page newspaper and think about, we ended up calling it sterkte because sterkte is the Dutch word for strength. And because I'm Dutch, basically getting back to the campfire at Tea Harbor, you said that's when you realized, and you even wrote about it, about my stubbornness, my stubborn Dutchness, where it was raining one night.
Oh, I was ready to throw in the towel. There were a couple of things. We had really wet wood, and Rita would not give up on a fire. And I'm like, oh, it's too wet. It's too wet. She's like, no, it's not. And we had Stinky Rudy, because he was a wet dog who came with us. And we had a little 2-man, lightweight tent.
It was the tiniest tent I've ever slept in.
Tent, yeah, with Rudy. And then Rita's like, nope, I'm Dutch. I'm doing this. And she got a fire started. And
I don't think I said I'm Dutch. Or maybe I did.
I think you do.
I throw that out a lot. What's that, Jesse?
It does sound like something you would say.
Yeah, I probably did.
It is totally something you said. Okay. I'm not going to let this fire get to me. And so Rita got a fire going. Also, I probably shouldn't have done this, but I brought a glass bottle of wine and I forgot a corkscrew, and she managed to push that cork in so that we could have a little bit of wine while we were camping. And yeah, that's all because of her sterkte, and her dad is going to laugh at me in terms of how I'm pronouncing it. But
I don't say it right either. We all say it differently, and we're going to do a trailer of how to say it right or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think visually it's super striking. And it's a word that no one knows. And Rita, with her design, she put the little sisu symbol in between the two syllables.
So it's a combination of...
It's a combination of sisu and sterkte. How beautiful is that?
It is so beautiful. And I love my surprise t-shirt that you guys sent. Everyone go to Doodle Apparel.
Doodleapparel.ca.
Buy a shirt. Of the Sleeping Giant. This fits in perfectly.
Yes. Please.
See how all these puzzle pieces are fitting together. So basically, we've had lots of adventures, and it started with Tea Harbor. But one of my favorite adventures with you was the trip I took when my daughter was finally 10 years old. I remember I had a bit of social anxiety. I feel like at the time, and a lot of people won't think that this is accurate, but I'm your introvert extrovert. I can go out and command any room. I have no problem with that. But the times that I want to do that are very rare. I like staying at home. I like gardening. And I think because I stayed home for a chunk of 10 years raising my daughter, I was kind of afraid to travel. Hey, Tiff?
Yeah, and I think you were having some guilt around leaving Sky. And I was like, okay, you have done a wonderful job, and now it's time for you to do something for you. And
boy, did I ever.
And it took a little bit of me nudging.
Yeah, you had to nudge.
Because I'm like, who better to go? Like, I really wanted to go to Nashville because I was watching Master of None, and they went on a date to Nashville. I'm like, I want to go there. And who do I want to go there with? I want to go with Rita because I know she can sing and I can't. And I can live vicariously through her. So it was really selfish, Rita. But we had fun.
Well, thank you. Thank you for pushing me, because honestly, we painted that town not just red. I don't know why they pick red for the sign. Like, it was a myriad of colors, and it was a trip where there was such an energy on Broadway where, you know, people that were less fortunate, homeless people, were handing me roses. Like it was this wild trip, and I cannot wait to go back. And but the funniest lead-in to our wonderful adventure is there was a blizzard on the way to the airport. We said our goodbyes. We're driving to the Pearson Airport. Major snowstorm.
Yeah, that's right. And then we parked the car, right? And we were waiting for our shuttle. And then we were on our shuttle to get to the airport.
And then all of a sudden, I heard ding. And I said, what is that alarm? What's going on there, Tiff? And she goes, it's time to call the Bluebird. And I was like, what? The Bluebird Cafe? Because we were also, you got me into Nashville at the time.
Yeah, the show. So for the show. Yeah, for the listeners who may not be familiar with Nashville, the Bluebird Cafe is the place where you want to play on stage. Like it has world-renowned acts. And I think on Tuesdays, it's open mic. However, you have to call during the set time, and it's the day of. And then if you happen to get through, you can get a spot on the stage. So but at this point, I had a sore throat. I hadn't played music in a while because I was, you know, recluse a bit. And then all of a sudden, right when we land, you got us in. You can talk anybody into anything, Tiffany, Jarva. I don't know about that. I think we were lucky. This is my theory. So I kept phoning over and over and over again once that alarm went off, right? Just like the old days when you would phone into a radio contest, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You sweet talked us in, girl, and what a fun experience.
Yeah, and I think it was because of the 807 number being from Thunder Bay. Like they probably didn't see that, and they picked it up, and I said, "Oh, do you have a stage guitar?" And they said, "Yes."
Yeah, a Martin. I got to play a Martin.
Nice.
Only time in my life at the Bluebird.
And we got to so if you go to a regular show at the Bluebird, people line up 3 to 5 hours before the show. And so I think we got to go in at 5 or 6. So it was the same day. So we pretty much made our taxi cab driver wait for us at our hotel, dropped all our stuff off, we got to go past all those people in line.
I didn't really have much time to be nervous.
No.
But I did have a sore throat at the time. That's when we discovered honey whiskey, which I feel like I should have shares in that company for sure, because I have recommended that to so many people, and they all love it. It is nice. It's kind of like Jägermeister.
Yeah, but I think a little nicer. You can drink it.
It's hot. Smooth. It's sweet on rocks. Don't drink too much, though.
No.
But basically, that really helped me, and so did the welcoming crowd. We met some really interesting people there.
We did. And then you don't even realize, because, you know, we're two girls originally from Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
Rita gets to play on stage at the Bluebird. Then we are told that we can stay for the next show. And we're like, well, what's the band like? And they're like, anyone playing at the Bluebird is going to be the best in the world. Right. So we decided to stay. But then we were shopping for cowboy boots. And...
Thank goodness for those boots. They're so comfy.
Yeah. I got my red cowboy boots, which I always wanted. But do you remember the guy who was helping us? He's like, I was telling everyone we met. Yeah. Rita played at the Bluebird our first night here. And he's like, what? I've been living here for 5 years. 5 years. And I can't get on the stage for open mic. Do you know how rare that is?
And remember, I got to just also go up on stage with another band and I sang Jolene.
Yeah.
That was a stellar band.
That was too. So Rita was on the stage twice. We're there for a long weekend, essentially. And it was like she was already a superstar. So,
and for some reason, when I had this little harmonica around my neck that we bought at a souvenir shop, and whatever honky tonk we walked into, it happened to be in the key of the song.
And she was just starting playing it. And people were like, you need to get on stage. It was real.
Remember the guy that was playing?
Yeah.
Like he had me on stage to sing, and then didn't he stop his song and then all of a sudden dance with me?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Was that
super
how that
fun.
happened? That was crazy. It was
Yeah.
magic. It was pure magic. And we also got to see the brilliantly talented Fred Mullen play at oh my gosh,
The Hard Rock Cafe.
the Hard Rock Cafe, which is no longer there,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and he had background players from the show Nashville, which we were both into at the time. So it was super fun.
They were smoking. That was a really fun dance.
Yeah.
I tell you. So yeah, we've had some great adventures for sure. We've started a magazine through the process, and it hasn't been easy. Like this past year, we've had moments too, like everybody else, where we've kind of felt like packing her in, or maybe we shouldn't, but we got to keep going, and because so much has happened this past year.
Yeah. Yeah.
In so many people's lives. So I'm so happy that you've always both been in my corner, and you're always there for a phone call.
Oh, thanks.
That's
and
for
what,
sure.
the cool thing about Styrkte, which I don't think we mentioned, it means you've got this, right? And it was all of our friends from across Canada, most of them being from Thunder Bay, working on it, and we all have a connection to Thunder Bay.
We do.
And it has helped me so much to have that project to work on, even just with how heavy everything was. I don't want to get into this past week with certain announcements, and the fact that I'm working on this next issue. I was mentioning to our friend Cherie, it's really, really helped me. So I am grateful for it, for sure. And the fact that we get to talk more. We have a reason.
We have a reason to talk more, and then we also have you are right. We have incredible friends around us that are part of the team that have so much insight. And I think that the great thing is, our theme for the first one was community building, which it turns out that this episode is now turning into community building for Your Stories. And but not even planned. It just is all part of the puzzle. Like, I'm trying not to overthink this and direct the ship too much. I'm just kind of going with the flow naturally of where it happens. Like, at first we were thinking, let's do one episode a week. That's a lot of time, and that's a lot of pressure, right? And same with Styrkte. We were going to do 4 different issues a year. Well, life had other plans, right?
And also, speaking of that, it became a 16 articles and 40 pages instead of the one pager.
One page person on the street corner.
No wonder it wasn't 4 times a year.
Right. So we are hoping to release the next one, and the theme is resilience.
It is.
And Tiffany is the editor of the magazine, and I've been voted in as president.
We are a nonprofit.
Whoa, Rita.
Yeah, and Rita's the president of our nonprofit
Rita has the big head.
organization.
Hey,
President,
Jesse?
CEO, CFO.
Jesse and I would make fun of people when they'd come in and do. Okay, yeah, I guess we would. Okay, we made fun of people that would come in. Sorry if you're listening, but if you were like a freelancer and you called yourself CEO, you would be laughed at when you'd leave the printing house.
Maybe even before you left.
Before you left. Anyway,
dear.
okay, back on track. Where were we? My dear friend and old backdoor neighbor when I lived in Thunder Bay, Tiffany Jarva, who is still currently living in Thunder Bay in the same house that I have tons of memories from. And speaking of memories, Tiffany, I know I asked you to provide to us a photo about your childhood. We briefly touched on the one that you were looking for and you didn't find. You sent me a reel of some stunning photos that your aunt took of you as a child. And I think we need to share more than just one to be quite honest. But the one that I'd like to talk about is the one that we kind of teased the show with, where, well, can you explain it? What are you doing there?
So I was pretty happy to come across that one. I don't remember that photo, right? You know how we sometimes remember photos from our childhood? I remember the one that I explained earlier. And this one, I'm kind of up in the air. And I'm holding a flower. At first, I thought it was a dandelion, but I think it's actually a daisy. And the significance of the dandelion representing resiliency is exciting to me. So I'm just in my mind going to pretend that that's a dandelion too, because I can just change things apparently. And when it comes to photos in my head.
Well, I feel like we should now touch on the whole dandelion versus resilience, that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And we talked about this actually being a symbol for our next issue. I've even talked about getting a tattoo. And so there's this idea, a theory, and I don't remember his name right now or the book that he's written, but I heard him being interviewed on CBC radio one day on my way to work, and how some, we don't know why, some kids are born with a very resilient spirit. Right? You don't really have to do much. They just thrive no matter what, like a dandelion. So,
well, and I think you have too. And I've said to you, you've gone through different obstacles than most children face in your childhood. But you always said to me, I just did what I had to do to move on.
Yeah. It was always like a no-brainer for me. And I think in that picture, that little girl, I don't know if your listeners can see it. I guess they will be able to see it.
They will if you go to Yore Stories PC.
Okay.
On Instagram.
Good.
Or Facebook.
Or anywhere.
Yeah. So that little girl, I feel like hasn't changed much. So, she's jumping in the air. She has her flower, a smile on her face. She's outside. And I think, we could get into hours and hours of discussion about nurture versus nature.
Right.
But I just think like I was kind of born with that spirit. And and you're right. My life wasn't super easy, but I always felt loved. For listeners who may not know me as well as Rita or Beckham, my mom was diagnosed with schizophrenia when she was, I think, in her early 20s. She had started hearing voices when she was like going through puberty, and that's typically what happens. And then she had a breakdown, like and after my dad died in a car accident, tragically, when we were living out west.
And you were 2 years old then, right, Tiffany?
I was about 2. My brother was about 1. So the amazing thing about that was, she was in the hospital for a little bit there. Her best friend brought us back to Thunder Bay to be with our family. She eventually moved back here and kind of rebuilt her life. Had been in and out of the Lakehead Psychiatric Hospital. Was stable for a bit. We would, and I have vague memories of spending weekends at my aunt's where maybe she would, be hospitalized for a bit. And, typically with that sort of mental illness, you go through stages where you're feeling great on your meds and you feel like you don't have to take them anymore, right? Which is unfortunate because then it's this downward spiral. And crazily, I don't even know if that's a word. Strangely
It is now.
It is now. I just made it up. Yeah, in my own head. She followed a boyfriend, not making very good decisions for sure, out east. Ironically, it ended up being one of the best decisions she ever made because the healthcare system was like far more advanced than the healthcare system in Ontario at the time. Like, just to sort of set the scene, she was still getting shock treatments. Whereas in Nova Scotia, we moved out there for a little bit. She and the boyfriend eventually broke up. So my mom's there, she had gone off her meds.
And you were about 7 years old at this time?
7 at that time. She was quite delusional, paranoid, like just to give you a small example, not to get too heavy, but.
Well, I remember you told me that you were in charge as the older sister, getting groceries, those sorts of things, right?
Yeah. And we're at a new school, right? We're in Nova Scotia, and I always loved school. So it's not surprising that I became a teacher. It was my safe space, right? Like it's where I went. And I guess I was always that was my strength, like academics, right? I liked school. My brother liked school too, maybe more for the social reasons. But yeah, I put on a strong face every morning. I would get the two of us together. I would make oatmeal. We would go to school and just kind of pretend. I sort of was pretending like everything was okay. And then eventually a neighbor noticed, like, what is going on? And at that point, the police came. They took my mom, a social worker, brought my brother and I to a foster home in Nova Scotia, and they were lovely.
I remember you telling me a story where you felt like there was a weight lifted off of your shoulders that you hadn't felt, because they said you could just like go by the water and read, or.
Right. Like I could just be a kid, right? Instead of trying to be a little adult. And so they took us camping. So, my aunt had introduced us to camping too when I was younger, but then I was camping on the East Coast. So my mom had moved to Yarmouth, and then we were in rural Yarmouth with a great family. And then
thank goodness.
And the programs out east were just so much more progressive because it was more of a holistic approach, right? Once they got you stable on your medication, you went to therapy, individual therapy, group therapy. They had a work placement program. And so eventually what ended up happening was my brother and I came back to Thunder Bay. My mom did lose custody of us. So we grew up as Crown wards, meaning we were kids of the nation, essentially, or maybe of Ontario, maybe not the nation. And we each had like a social worker assigned to us to help us deal with all the stuff. And we were really lucky that we had family that took us in. So by that time, I was probably around 9 or 10.
And were the social workers, sorry for interjecting there, but were the social workers really helpful with you? Did you feel at that age that you could share?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when Beckham was born, I had bumped into Trudy. Trudy Epp was my social worker. She wouldn't be able to tell anyone that I was under her care, but I can. Yeah. And she came to visit Beckham, and she brought the Anne Geddes little book. And at the beginning, it was much more intensive, right? I would see her probably once a week, and then it became once a month. And then, I was quite stable, doing very well in school. I had like a really strong set of our network of friends, and was doing very well academically. And then, there are higher needs that are part of her caseload, right? So I would see her less and less as I got older. But man, I would say I feel super, super lucky that I was born in Canada, because I can't imagine living in any other country, because we were taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah. We are very, very lucky. And we shouldn't take it for granted. I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. And I mean, lucky I feel lucky to have, have such a relationship with your mom. And I adore her. And I know she struggled, and she'll be open about it. She'll share, which, is so great. And she's such an appreciator of music. I mean, she was a rock and roller back in the day. Hey,
so she was, for sure. And Mary has been a huge advocate for mental illness. And, she eventually, when she did come back to Thunder Bay, she went back into nursing. She worked in that field before she retired. And, and then her diagnosis changed because she was really high functioning. Typically, if you're diagnosed with schizophrenia, you're not usually that high functioning. So then her diagnosis was changed probably about 15, 20 years ago to schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type. And so she's been very instrumental in terms of opening up the discussion and not being ashamed about it, right? Just saying it's a disease. It is. And just like a heart disease and you take medication for that, the same thing. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with mental illness, it's not a quick fix, right? Because you don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work.
No, it's been a lot of juggling with different medications and such. She's got a good team behind her. She continues to brighten people's day with her humor through it all. Hey, I remember she made Sky and I the most beautiful ponchos, which we still wear proudly. You tell Mary, okay? Otherwise known as Moo Moo. To Beckham. Hey, Bex.
Yeah. The Finn grandma.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, Beckham, and I hope you don't mind, but you lived with Moo Moo for a while, and do you have any advice how to coexist, with somebody that is struggling with mental illness? What kinds of things have you learned?
Well, I was pretty young. I wasn't really matured, I guess. When did she move in? How old was I? Probably 12.
Yeah,
13?
you were probably around 12. Yeah.
So it can be difficult because you don't understand what is going on. I probably more understood near the end because she was getting worse near the end. She was very stable when she moved in with us. To my recollection, but the biggest thing is just realizing that it's not really them. And I didn't realize that because it was hard to. So yeah, and not taking anything personally and knowing, and you have to see that they still are them, but just not
right.
They aren't them when they are mentally ill, and it is a disease.
For sure. I mean, I saw my grandfather wither away with dementia, and he was such a proud man, right? I mean, he was one of the first, I guess, third generation of commercial fishermen on Lake Superior. And I remember that I would go visit him at his home, and he would actually think I was his sister. Which at first I was really young too. I think I was 17 or 18 or so. And it was very, very difficult, but I kind of kept going with that in mind, like you said, because that's very wise words, Beckham. And I ended up building a different kind of relationship with him. I knew though he was still in there. One day I took him to the marina for a drive, and we went and sat on a bench at the marina, and we looked out and we saw the Lakers, and then we saw a tugboat. And he wasn't super responsive up until this moment, but he actually saw the tugboat, similar to what he used to ride, right, to pull his nets up. And he reached out and grabbed my hand. And I looked over at him, and he had tears just rolling down his cheeks. And we knew he was still in there. And this was when he was really far gone, right? There were times where and you have to try to find the humor in things, right? I think that's important too. I mean, there were times where I would show up at his home once, and he rolled out of a woman's room because I couldn't find him in his room, and he had kisses all over his face. Big big lipstick marks all over his face. Yeah. And to me, that just, it made me smile. And yeah. And well, thank you for sharing that, you guys, because I think it is important. And I know it's a very sacred space. But I think that the more we have conversations in life about everything we're going through, I feel like it just loosens the load on everybody's shoulders, right?
Yeah. And can I make the thing with mental health is there are a lot of people who are advocates of it, and there are a lot of people who say they are until it gets messy, and mental health is messy, and I think people kind of have to realize that it is very messy, and it it can be very difficult to distinguish what is mental health and what is them, right? Like, so don't expect there to be one solution to anything or a reason behind things,
right?
Because it's very messy.
I think that's the same even in relationships.
Well, yeah, that's true. Life is messy, so.
I think, and just to build on what Beckham was saying, I think it's really important to treat people with dignity, right? So I think there's still a lot of stigma. I think I still, sometimes struggle with it, right? It's so much easier to have people rally around you if you have a close family member that's diagnosed with cancer per se, versus someone who has been, and so just to put some context, my mom was stable for decades. She went off her meds, even though she worked in the field, right? And she was institutionalized again for the past couple of years. And so before that, I could see some unraveling. So I moved her in with us. And she got stable for a little bit, and then she moved out on her own, and then she spiraled again. So I think at first it feels like you're losing a loved one. However, they're just ill. And I think when I go back to that picture of that little girl, for some reason, I always knew that my mom was sick. Like, it had nothing to do with me. We can't take it personally. All we can do is treat other human beings with some dignity. And like Beckham said, it can be messy, and there's not one magic pill that is going to make it all okay, so. And
also it's a lifetime diagnosis, right?
Right. Especially, and it may be mental health, and mental health, right? I think there are tools that you can use. I'm a teacher. The anxiety levels right now are through the roof, right?
Yeah.
Compared to
there is not enough funding toward it. Fund allocation is an interesting thing. And when I worked in the world of fundraising, I'll never forget the day that my executive director was reading the paper. And I don't know if I can cuss here. I'm just going to say frig. But basically, it really opened my eyes to the competitive world out there. And here we were, trying to build a shelter when the mental institute had closed in Thunder Bay. Yeah, it breaks my heart. This is the part where I get emotional. And I remember, we had people there that weren't even homeless, that were struggling with issues like your mom, that weren't on the right medications, didn't have the right resources at all. And there was wild things happening, in their lives and brains. And I remember walking in, and we were also trying to build a new building. So we were competing against ourselves for a new building. And I remember my boss just feeling frustrated because somebody has to be accountable if you don't raise enough funds, right? And it's a lot of pressure. And I just remember him going, F cancer. They get everything.
Right. Right, which I get. And people say F cancer when they have it too, because it is awful.
They do. They do. And my heart breaks. Dear friends of ours have fought the fight, you know, and all the power to them. But we were talking with Brandon in his interview, and you'll hear it after this, where, you know, can there just be a little bit more balance?
Right. There's truly inequity, right? It's not equitable because it's not dealing with mental illness is not sexy at all.
Right.
It is like, it's beyond messy at times, right? And it's really hard because you feel so helpless at certain points during the journey. And that's why I think in order for me, like when you were saying earlier, I just do it. In order for me to be able to support anyone, I need to take care of myself first and foremost. Right. I am a firm believer of that.
For sure.
That's why I'm outside all the time. That's why we have Edla, you know, our little yellow canoe.
That's why you go to Centennial and you
that's why I go to Centennial.
Your sign. I made it here. I'm going to go back there.
You know, and to go back to that picture, there's so many layers to it, right? Because I've been to Centennial like every week, like since I was, since I've moved back from North Van, twice a week in the summers, sometimes every single day. And it's such a beautiful place for me to be. I learned how to ski there, like cross-country ski at Centennial. I love the symbolism of the current river flowing into the big lake, Lake Superior. My brother and I, when we were young, because, it was back in the day when you could just leave and be gone until the streetlights came on, used to drive we used to ride our little banana seat bikes. Remember those?
I love those. Did you have Spooky Dokies?
I did. And my bike was yellow.
What?
Like it was.
I didn't have Spooky Dokies.
What?
Jesse, did you?
I don't know how to ride a bike.
What?
What?
My mom doesn't either, Jesse. You guys have something in common. So the banana seat, Centennial has been such a huge part of my life. And, it was a park that's like in the north side of Thunder Bay that's been around since, I think, the late 60s, early 70s to honor the lumber industry here, right? Like,
such great swimming holes.
We went a couple of summers ago when you and Sky were visiting. So
it ended up being our morning routine to just go and take a dip there.
Yeah, it was lovely. So I feel super lucky that I live in Northwestern Ontario where I can get outside. I can strengthen my spirit, like by the end of my walks, my friend Julia laughs at me. By the end of my walks, honestly, Rita, I'm thinking, rock, tree, annoying dog sometimes. Most times she's cute. Or maybe sometimes she's cute. Most times she's annoying. But anyway.
But you just get it completely out of your head, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like the other day I was pretty stressed out and I said, oh, Tiff, I can't talk about the podcast tonight. I just need to pull some weeds. Weeding is my therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Feels good to just yank those weeds.
It sure does.
Yeah. So, no, thank you so much for sharing that. And one of the coolest, though, and I have to mention it, is that we've had many nights where we have sung Janis Joplin at the top of our lungs, where the neighbors may not have appreciated it. But
one time the neighbors joined us. Do you remember that when we were around the fire at my house and my new neighbors came over and they're like, what
and
are
they
you guys
joined
doing?
us.
Yeah.
I think they loved it. But when we basically went through, after Tea Harbor, shortly after, we both had separations in our relationships and I decided to move to Toronto. So we had some great parties because our other girlfriend on your street, she was also going through a separation. And we would convene on, it was like the little Bermuda Triangle of relationships past, where we would go on different patios and just sing songs at the top of our lungs, hey?
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, that was good healing. Some songs were fun, like Janis. like Janis Joplin. Some were like sad.
Well, Janice, I love singing with you because I just love the fact that you were actually conceived at a Janis Joplin concert.
Okay, so I was wondering, did you fact check that with my mom? Like, I don't know if it was actually at the concert. It might have been after the concert.
Well, I wasn't going to get that too crazy, but do you guys want to hear a really funny story? Okay.
We don't want the specifics.
Like in regards to that, of getting to into people's, what's happening there. You like that sound effect, guys? But okay, so here I am, just finishing broadcasting school, and I landed a internship in Florida, Boca Raton, working for my cousin's husband television station. And that's a whole other episode, but it was a good experience, but I missed home. I'm a Canadian girl and I missed home, but I got to tell you is that my dear, sweet cousin had me over. I hadn't seen her in years, and I always really respected her, and she's just so calm and loving. And I went to go to her place for the first time, and her little dog was running around. And I said, "Oh, what's your dog's name?" And she said, it's so-and-so. And I can't tell you yet because it's part of the story. And so then we're talking a little bit later on. And I said, oh, okay, so, you're married now. And how did you meet your husband? And she told me, and I said, oh, okay. And I said, so when did you get frisky? I thought that was the dog's name. So turns out the dog's name was Frisco. But my cousin started telling me intimate details. Well, on our first date, a little hesitantly, right? Well, on our first date, he kind of held my hand. And then I was like, what is happening here? What is going on? And then I realized, I'm like, before she went on further, I'm like, no, I meant, when did you get the dog? And she goes, oh, Frisco. So I don't ask too many people intimate details because of that.
Right.
But you can ask her and you can let me know because I would love to know the real story. Hey, can we tell them about the time that you freaked us all out, Bex? And during a dance party?
Oh, I started playing lullabies.
Okay, so to set the tone, we're not going to tell all of the adult details at our party, but we were all feeling pretty good. So we're dancing to Purple Rain. Okay, let's go crazy.
Okay, wait. Yeah, and wait. I'm going to interject for a second.
Okay, good.
Because we had just gotten the Google Home. Right? So that's new. And lots of people are freaking out about it. Like Rita and our friend Martha, they're like, this scares me. I don't like it. And
because I'm into the new tech stuff, right?
Yeah,
so
I
really
want someone listening to me all the time.
And then people are being annoying.
You're hosting a podcast.
Yeah, here I am. I'm stepping out of my shell big time here, guys. But whatevs.
And then people keep going in because it's a novelty and they keep changing the music, right? Which is annoying for sure. And so, okay. Well, go. Okay. That's sort of setting the scene. And Beckham's babysitting 2 streets away.
He's babysitting our friend's child who is at our party, right? Or children. And she's at our party. And, we just have so much fun at Tiffany's parties. And
really?
We really do. Any party. I mean, we threw you a birthday party and the theme was yellow.
There was a pinata?
This particular party was the Golden Girls Clue theme.
Yeah.
We had a
obviously. Normal theme.
We had a pinata in the shape of Sophia.
Yeah. My friends Jamie and Karen made that, and they filled it with like Kleenexes and chapsticks and
some other goodies. And and nobody could actually get that pinata, but guess who got the pinata down? The very end.
What?
Yeah, I did. I did. But to the point where I think I had a lot of aggression at the time. was like, whoa. So here we are after the piñata breaking, and we're dancing, feeling so good in the middle of Let's Go Crazy. And Martha and I, we were maybe only one sheet to the wind. Okay. No word of a lie. And so here we are, mid-song, and all of a sudden, nursery rhymes start playing. Let's Go Crazy stops, and nursery rhymes start playing. And we both don't like this Google thing to begin with. And we're like, what is going on? But the funny thing was, nobody else realized what was happening. They were just all dancing.
Oh no, yeah. Rita, I'm like socializing with my friend Dana, I think. We're outside.
I think you were in the front porch or something.
In the front porch, and you're like, there's something going on with your
I
music.
had to go up
and I'm like grabbing me by my shoulders. I'm like, it's fine. Like
everything's fine.
It's all good. It's all good.
So the music starts back up. Tiffany comforted me. Everything's okay. We're back on dancing to Let's Go Crazy. Some good moves on the floor. And then all of a sudden, same thing. Nursery rhymes again. I don't like horror movies and stuff either. So
I love horror movies.
Yeah, I don't.
Though.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, again, right? We're like, Martha and I at this point are looking at each other like, this is clearly wrong. Like, how come we are the only ones that are realizing that this just shouldn't be happening right now? What is happening? Are we in a dream? Like, really? Anyway, so it happened a few times. That wasn't just twice, right? And
oh yeah, I was like
messing with it.
I would mess with it. I would like leave it for a couple songs and then I would come back. Yeah.
What were the kids doing at the time, Bex?
Probably asleep.
Yeah.
I was bored.
I was getting kind of late.
I'm joking. It was certainly late. Anyway.
Shenanigans by Beckham. My goodness.
Shenanigans. That's one of your coin words for sure.
Oh, that was so that was the last birthday celebration I had, like with everyone before the pandemic, right? Or maybe I had one right after. But anyway, I remember coming downstairs from the bathroom and looking in my living room, and every single person had a wig on. And do you remember this, Rita? I said,
I do.
It's the best day of my life.
Yeah, it was like that.
Wigs,
you were
wigs.
like, I have arrived. I have arrived. I have spread my wigs to the entire room. Look at this. And we had costume changes as we normally do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that was a stellar party. So then the next day, after a delicious breakfast that Tiffany always whips together, like rye toast, probably with poached eggs and great cheeses, we're sitting there having a coffee. Beckham's back home, kind of, gets out of bed, sitting with us. He's like, so, how was the party? Like, it was amazing. Like, of course. He's like, so anything interesting happened? Like, you little shit. You little shit. That was you. Good one.
It's still funny. It's still very funny.
And boy, is my daughter ever a trickster. Currently, she's walking around with a pack of gum and snapping people's thumbs off lately. So we're going to have a lot of fun this summer when we meet you at the lake.
It'll be fun.
So we have delved into so many things, but except for Tiffany, I want you to maybe talk and share about some of the strong women in your life, because I know that you always talk about how there's a great lineage of strong, inspiring women.
Me, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, well, I'm surrounded by friends. Absolutely. I feel lucky no matter where I've lived in Canada. So, I was in Ottawa in my early 20s. I have like strong female friends from that time of my life. Out west in North Van, it's how I started actually getting involved in publishing and magazines. I worked on my first magazine in North Van called Homes West. And then here in Thunder Bay, of course, And then there's my mom, who I feel like is incredibly strong. I think of all, she's so generous and she's worked really hard and she's done that all in spite of her illness.
Yeah.
And then my aunt, who raised me essentially from the time I was 9, and she was the one who introduced me to the great outdoors. We camped all the time. We went to the Sleeping Giant camping often, and she loved music, she loved movies, like all of, I think, my arts and culture sensibilities really stem from having lived with her and my cousins, who are like siblings to me, Christy and Nigel, who are the loveliest humans, who shared their parents with me. I'm super grateful for that.
And your canoe is named after a strong woman.
Absolutely. So my canoe, who I've named Edla after my grandma, so my mom's mom. And again, that goes back to the picture and that connection, right? So both my grandparents, like on my mom's side, Kauno and Edla, moved here from Finland when my mom was just a baby. And they worked in the bush camps. My grandmother, Edla, we know her affectionately as Etty, was a bush camp cook. And my grandpa was a laborer. And
I wonder if my mom worked in the bush camps.
And your mom and I shared stories about that when she and I went, when we painted the lighthouses on Lake Superior.
It's part of the Canadian Lighthouses of Lake Superior group.
Yeah, like she said she would work with people who only spoke Finn, and your mom probably knows more Finn than me, which, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but.
Well, she had to learn it, Tiffany. Like they wouldn't speak to her unless she learned Finn. Did she share that with you? And then once she cussed in a sauna, you don't cuss in a sauna.
No.
It's a sacred space.
Was she banned from the sauna?
I don't think she was banned, but she was given a warning.
Yeah.
And there was like a lot of tough women that probably instilled a lot of toughness in her at the time. She needed it. Yeah.
And the story goes that my grandmother, I know once for sure, maybe twice, was struck by lightning, like indirectly.
I can't believe.
It's insane. So then, near the end of her days, my mom would have to go and stay at her place if there was a lightning storm coming in, because she was terrified.
But what were the after effects of being struck by lightning?
I don't really, because it was indirect, because she was a bush camp cook. I think it was through holding something that was metal, right? And just getting that kind of being electrocuted, I think, was how my mom and my grandma described it. But whenever I'd go visit her, she would have moyaka. She was a good
What is
cook.
moyaka?
Moyaka is like a Finnish stew. However, I've learned through some of my research that it's a Finnish stew that was created in Canada. Like they don't have they don't have moyaka in Finland.
Really? What is in it?
So it's the peppercorns. Usually a stewing beef. My favorite, and anyone's Finnish who listens to this is going to be cursing me, is galamoyaka, which is more of like a chowder. It's made with cream and fish.
I love the way that sounds.
And the fish, it's so delicious. So she could make that really well. And my Auntie Birgit, she's my mom's half sister. She's an amazing cook. Like Beckham and I go there every Christmas Eve.
Is she the one that makes that
Pula?
Pula. Oh, I've had her pula.
And she makes
that's a coffee bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
so
those of
good.
you. And sorry, what else does she make, Bex?
She makes what are they called?
Pirika? Kind of like,
Pilikas.
we know them
gosh.
probably as moccasins, right? Where you have that bread with the rice in the middle. You could get them at the Hoito, which is sadly
I
no
loved
longer.
those.
Yeah, she makes those really, really well. And stuff that Beckham doesn't like, this liver casserole. Oh my goodness.
But I love the chicken or the carrot casserole.
Yeah. So,
Did you say that is the Hoito now no longer?
the Hoito is no longer. Yeah.
It's turning into condos.
It is, hey?
Yeah.
Oh,
But they might keep it.
I heard they might, and I was wondering, There's a theory on Bay Street that I had heard that always made me laugh, that it's one cook underneath in like underneath the street. And they basically have tunnels where they just put the thin pancakes and, there's runners that run to all of the other, like the Scan House and the Huito and the Kangas. Yeah. They go a little further for that one. But that always made me laugh. But Finnish food is definitely so good. Oh, so good. Can you guys bring some of that?
I had Finn pancakes today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, that's because I'm supposed to be working on report cards. So,
Right.
So she fed me.
I made Finn pancakes instead. Just like yesterday, I went around and I did some yard work as well.
Well, we probably should wrap this up soon then. It's kind of just like how my mom wrapped up her interview. Wasn't that hilarious? Are you going to let me go so I can eat?
So I can go eat?
So I can go eat. Did we want to talk about the urban legend?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Rita's mentioned Kangas before. So Kangas was the cat that would go and visit you, right, Rita?
Right.
And so I remember getting my first LTO. Like I had LTOs; those are long-term occasionals. When I was
for teachers, when you start teaching, that's what you get.
And so I had a full year, September to June. I was so excited.
I learned all about LTOs.
Yeah. And then Beckham was a terrible sleeper when he was a baby. He's still not great now. And it was a Sunday, and there was a hole in my bathroom because at one point, one of those, those tiny baby washcloths?
Yeah.
Gone down the drain, it got stuck. And so we had to punch a hole into the wall to get it out so that we could actually bathe and shower.
This is one of my favorite stories.
So Beckham was crawling and walking at the time, and I was worried that he was going to go in that hole. So I'm like, I need to get this fixed. And now in retrospect, I could have done it, but I had no idea how to drywall anything. So,
but Tiffany, we were on the phone the night you decided to drywall it.
I was?
Yeah, we were on the phone, and I remember you had a drink, and you were like, tired of a few things. For instance, the bathtub on your porch.
Yes. Yeah. Because that clawfoot bathtub was supposed to end up in my bathroom, which it never did. And it was a hole. And
it was that moment as a single mom, you're by yourself, right? Yeah. And you're like, I got this. I can do this. And you're like, this hole is driving me crazy.
Yes.
And I'm just going to do it. I'm like, you do it. You go do it.
Well, it wasn't really me who did it, but I got it done. And because every time, like my toilet was right across from the hole. So every time I would look at the hole and go, okay, that needs to get fixed. So my sister-in-law's dad, I called him up and he's super handy. Roussel, French Canadian. He's hilarious. He came over at like 9:00 in the morning with his tools, and he drywalled that hole. And I was so happy. I spent the whole day cleaning. I prepped for the week for school. And Beckham, like it was a miracle, went to bed early. And he's in his bed snoozing away. And I'm like, oh, I got to go pee. And I'm going to go look at my nicely new drywalled hole.
And I do remember Beckham would wake up often, so you never knew.
Yeah, I never knew.
Yeah.
So I was just happy.
Yeah, you had this moment of
and
peace.
it wasn't dark. Like it was still light out. So I'm like, yes, I rock. I got
get some time outside on the day. Yeah.
And then I'm going pee, and then all of a sudden I hear scratch, 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 meow. I'm like, what? Scratch, 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 meow. Oh my gosh. I'm like, the cat has been drywalled into the house. Seriously.
And the thing is, The thing is, you have quite the reputation amongst the plumbing
Right.
arena there.
So you would think the right thing to do would have been to like get the cat out right away. But my ex, Beckham's dad, was renovating a house. So there were no tools here. So of course I call my friend Tanya and I'm like, what do I do? And she's like, oh my God, that's the most hilarious thing ever. I'm coming over. And I'm also thinking, I don't want to wake up Beckham. He's finally asleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, it really only took an X-Acto knife, and I had this tiniest little decor hammer of mine. So I'm like using that. And then the cat, of course, Beckham wakes up. Tanya's trying to rock him back to sleep. The cat just comes out Kangas, like a big stretch and a yawn, and looks at me like cats do. Like, huh. So really, he had been in there. This was probably around 8 o'clock at night. He'd been in there since like 9 or 10 in the morning, and whatever he was doing inside my house, I have no idea.
Maybe
forward.
Killing some mice.
Maybe. He was a good mouser. Yeah. And then
it is the best story.
And then, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years later, I'm getting some leaking happening in my dining room. I'm like, ugh, okay. I'm referred to a plumber. I call a plumber and they come in. And so, of course, I haven't fixed the drywall again. I'm like, screw it. There's still a hole.
I know it. It lasted a little while.
Yeah, the hole's a little bit smaller this time. And it's still there. So the plumber can go in. He's like, you just need to change a washer. And he's like, why do you have this hole here anyway? And so I told him the whole story. And he's like, you're that lady who drywalled her cat into the wall of her house? That's you? I thought that was an urban legend.
You are an urban legend.
I'm like, no. And so then that visit was free.
It was a free visit. So next time you call a plumber, just say, do you know that I'm the woman that put their cat in the wall? Like, do you know that I'm that girl? Yeah. What kind of discount you got for me?
Oh man. Yeah. Oh man.
That is the best story. It truly, truly is. And there was one crazy camping trip that I kind of want to hear your perspective of.
So we were talking a little bit about Edna earlier, the yellow canoe. I think I purchased that canoe about 5 years ago. And so Beckham and I started going every year to Quetico. And one year we went and there was a huge forest fire. Do you remember this, Beckham?
Yes, of course I do. It was scary.
It was scary. And it was funny because I think either on our way out there, we were talking about who we would be if there was who we would want to be with if there was a zombie apocalypse, or what we would bring. And we were saying, yeah, we should for sure need to get away in our canoe and blah, blah, blah. Well, we get out, we put in at French Lake and we go to Pickerel Lake and there's no one. Like you can't see anyone. And the smoke is coming a little bit closer. It's getting darker.
That would be hard to breathe.
And I see one person on this little sandbar, which is a great spot to camp. It's like lovely. I covet that spot every year. And she comes out and she's saying, hi, whatever, trying to wave us down. I'm like, Donna? So it's this supply teacher that I know. I'm like, she's like, have you seen anyone else? I'm like, no, have you? And she's like, no, just you guys. I'm like, oh, are you planning on staying the night even with all this smoke coming in? She's like, it's our anniversary. Absolutely. We have steak. Do you guys want some steak?
Absolutely. We're going to just make the best of this.
And I'm still thinking, you know what? We have our choice of sites. It's just, Donna, her husband, and Beckham and me, 4 of us. We're like, no, that's okay. You enjoy your anniversary. We go around the corner. We find another sandy beach. And I'm all up for staying because I'm thinking it's an adventure. But poor Beckham, he was so nervous. He's like, Mom, I don't like this. I feel claustrophobic. And the sky is disappearing.
I wouldn't either.
The sky is disappearing. the sun looks like this little red demon eye. And I said, okay, well, we'll have something to eat and then we'll paddle out. Yeah, that was in Edla at Quetico. It was fun.
Yeah, you've had a lot of great experiences together. I think it's so nice, Beckham, that you do your yearly trip with your mom.
Yes.
Even through your teen years. It's just a constant. And I know, I remember your mom saying when you were approaching your teen years, I wonder if this is going to keep happening. But I mean, your mom is so cool to hang out with.
Every year
agreed.
I feel like I'm like rolling the dice, right? So when Beckham was in SK, I was still supplying. On the last day of school, I went and got him and we went to Sleeping Giant, and that was our weekend, just the two of us camping. And it was so cute. That year he tried to build a fire. I'm sorry, I'm going to throw you under the bus. But he was like in SK. Aww. He tried building a fire by putting 4 separate little piles like on the...
I remember that little Bex, and I would, if I threw him under the bus, I'd be posting the little naked picture I have of him hanging off the fence.
Oh, he was a climber.
Don't you dare.
He was a little climber.
No, I'm just kidding.
For sure.
He was
I don't care.
He was a climber, for sure.
He was a climber.
And he liked to be naked out in the backyard. Yeah, he was cute.
And he loved to, I remember you used to say, I have a spirited boy.
Yes.
Because he would just like want to zoom off in Home Depot. I remember you being on the line. You're like, does Sky do this? I'm like, I had this girl that wouldn't leave my side, right?
Yeah. I bought that book, The Spirited Child or something. Anyway, he's turned out to be okay. And you know what? He is definitely the best thing that I've ever done.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like driving with Sky the other day, I said, you know, you are my buddy for life. Like, that is just so cool. And I can't believe you came out of me.
Oh, that's creepy.
Mom, what are you saying?
No, but then we were in Shoppers Drug Mart and she was glued at my hip, but I kept on turning to find the magnesium and I kept bumping her. And then I was like, come on, can't you just move? And she was like, I thought you just said like you love spending time with me.
Yeah, very inconsistent.
Yeah. Very inconsistent. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us today. And what are you up to now? Are you going on out in some nature?
Oh.
Or are you doing your report cards?
I'm supposed to be working on my report cards. But, you know, like yesterday I borrowed a trimmer. I've never trimmed anything in my life. All of a sudden, they're super fun, though. I'm trimming the lilac tree. I'm trimming my rose bush and my cedar bush and my raspberry bush. And then I'm seeing tiny little weeds. I'm like, I may as well trim these too.
I may as well trim these. And then my neighbor's fence.
Hello, Heather. And all of my laundry is done because everything is so much more enjoyable than doing my report cards. So anyway, including this. So thank you. I feel very honored that you picked me as your second guest. I hope that you gleaned something out of this, and it's nice to hear. I
always glean something out of it. And I mean, we usually say goodbye about 5 times, but maybe we won't for this.
Right.
Because there's always another story with us. And we always get off the phone and think, I could have shared this and I should have shared this. And I didn't ask her about Beckham about this. And yeah.
Oh,
so
and then I have like, I have to plug my idea. I do love the name of this. Jesse, I think you came up with it, Yore Stories. But I was super...
Excuse me,
no, and then,
I'm your own
and then
son.
Beckham changed this. Or no, Beckham came up with the YOUR stories. I said life stories, this, and we started like, brainstorming.
Okay,
Beckham made a list. And then
effort.
Jesse put the spin on the YORE.
Right. And so then I was
throwing me under the bus. I'm your own son.
Sorry, Beckham. But I was like super cocky and I was like, no, the title of your podcast should be From Beehives to Mullets. And Beckham's like, what are you talking about?
I remember when you messaged me and I'm like,
and I said, you're welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And then I remember
You had such a big head.
Yeah.
and then I remember that too. Then you texted it to me, but we had already maybe decided on your stories.
Yeah, roughly.
I didn't know
Roughly.
that. I didn't know that though.
And then I was like, I get where she's coming from, but beehives and mullets.
feel free to have me back one day to do a segment on that because I think it would be fun.
Okay, so you got it. So you just work on that.
Okay.
And we will do an episode that wouldn't be a segue. It would be like
maybe a mini episode.
A mini episode.
Just about someone bringing in a picture of their terrible hairdo and talking about it. Just for fun.
I think that is a great idea. And to lead into that, I'm just going to share, because I have a story about everything, the time, and I have a picture, and I will share it on social media. Actually, the time my really cute cousin came to visit us from BC to Thunder Bay, I was probably 7 years old. My sister was 9. And my mom decided to make us look nice. She was going to put curlers in our hair, like perm curlers, but just in our bangs. So there is a picture of my sister and I looking so embarrassed in the back seat with my gorgeous cousin. He's older and he's looking at us. And I have this bouffant on my head that's sticking up. I look like a poodle. We had a poodle at the time, Giggles too. I looked like Giggles, and my sister too. And she was such an embarrassed kid for many things. And we just like, oh yeah, Mom, why'd you do this to us? You look pretty.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
I'm going to share that. So yeah, maybe I'll save that for beehives and mullets.
Save it for beehives and mullets.
Or mullets and beehives.
Mullets and beehives.
Anyway, Tiffany, I love you to the moon and back.
I love you too, Rita. Have a great day. Bye.
I've been in trouble most all my life. I got a troubled heart and a troubled mind. And if you see things my way, from my point of view, then pretty soon you come to meet trouble too. There ain't much distance between wrong and right. There ain't much comfort in troubled times. And if you see things my way, from my point of view, then pretty soon you come to meet trouble too. There's trouble in the morning, there's trouble at night, there's trouble on the highway, trouble satellites, there's trouble on the weekend and the whole week through. All I see is trouble from my point of view. There's trouble on the coast, there's trouble in the water, there's trouble kaleidoscopes revealing trouble fathers, there's trouble police and first responders. Our troubled streets are full of troubled daughters. There's trouble in the air, there's trouble in the pollen, there's trouble at the food bank, there's too much hunger calling. We're all in trouble when the rich get richer. There's trouble for the commons in the bigger picture. There's trouble in the lightning, there's trouble in the thunder, there's trouble up north now, trouble down under.
Oh, what a great song. That was Brandon Agnew with his song Trouble from his newly released stellar album, Mave's Variety. Welcome, Brandon, to Yore Stories.
Thanks, Rita. Nice to chat with you.
Oh, it's so fantastic. I love the fact that you're putting music out there into the world. I know you've taken a bit of a break here and there from recording. The groove of this album and the food for thought put into that song, the others, the pause into the bluesy psychedelic solo. There's so many psychedelic moments in that whole album.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to have fun with it, and I wanted everything to be driven by, tempo and like a fun rhythm, and then, like you said, some food for thought in the lyrics. So hopefully we pulled it off.
Yeah, you did a bang up job. I feel like it's the sort of album where you don't want to skip any songs.
Oh, well, thank you.
Right. So I think that's a pretty good sign. And I mean, we're a part of, the same music circle here in Niagara, and you're spread out into Hamilton, and you recorded in Toronto, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'd have to say that the feedback amongst some of the music makers in our circle, they're blown away. Just the fact even that I guess it was recorded, is that right, in a day and a half?
Yeah. We did. We met up. We had 2 studio days booked. We got the word early on a Saturday morning. We had the studio booked for a Sunday, Monday. We got word on the Saturday morning that whoever had the studio booked for the Saturday couldn't make it. So Nick's in the studio and basically said to our buddy Joe, who, engineered and produced this, hey, if you guys want the studio today, it's yours. So we scrambled to get there on a Saturday, and we had a rehearsal. And then Sunday we came back and we recorded 8 songs in one day as a 5-piece band. And then on the Monday, there was only 3 of us there. So Trouble was actually recorded on the Monday as a 3-piece band. And then we just did some, like you were saying about the solo and stuff, we just did some overdubs on Monday and stuff. So yeah, it all came together rather quickly and got completed, at least in the studio, rather quickly as well.
Having Joe Stracuzzi in your corner is a pretty good thing. He's pretty multifaceted, hey?
Yeah, I mean that's probably a huge understatement. And I feel like with Joe, it's just like I give him kudos, and you have to be careful because he keeps setting the bar high. When we were camping with Joe and Sam last year, and I proposed the idea of doing an album with him, and I just love his philosophy for everything. It's just basically, every time you're approaching it, whether it's something new or something you've been doing your whole life, just try to improve upon it by like 10%. You'll never truly like perfect something, but just, right. He's just inherently curious. And from that curiosity, he's able to do a lot.
Yeah, for sure. You're right. He definitely is. And he's been a great community builder for the scene. So, and speaking of other great community builders, aside from yourself, I read Carl David Onofrio's review on your album. Was that not incredible? Like how somebody can write a review that's woven so beautifully and poetically. Like he should be writing for Rolling Stone.
Yeah, well, I mean, and like, anybody that knows CD wouldn't expect anything less, right? But when I told him that, that we'll have some new music to share and stuff like that, I half jokingly, but half sincerely said, well, maybe you can write an album review, because I just thought that would be a great thing that he could pull off in ways that, are completely unique to him, but also like people genuinely look forward to, reading his words and hearing his songs and all the rest of it. So he sent me that last week, and I was just like, oh, CD, this made me smile a lot. Thank you.
Oh, of course. I told him recently I can't wait to read his first book, just hinting at the fact that I wish he would come out with it. And someday he may. So yeah, it's so great through this whole pandemic. I'd have to say, Brandon, there are some people that just stand out in a crowd in the purest of ways, that have that vibe to them that is warm, welcoming, and super genuine always. And during this pandemic, I've thought about these sorts of souls that I've crossed paths with a little more. and wanting to connect a little deeper with them. So that's kind of part of the motivation of Your Stories here, to bring these people to, the forefront, hopefully, and pay tribute to their songs and just their being. And I really appreciated your smiles, your songs. I mean, you did a little marathon of songs one time during the pandemic that I think, not only me, it elevated my spirits, but I just want to say thank you for putting that energy out there, because I'm sure it's touched a lot of souls. And yeah, I know it hasn't been the easiest time to create, but the fact that you put out a bang up job on an album and released it out there into the world, you must feel pretty proud.
Yeah, I feel pretty accomplished. And I mean, looking back, I was rather naive last April and thinking like, oh, I've written some songs and I'm going to start sharing a song a day throughout the course of this pandemic. And like, I definitely couldn't keep pace with that. I don't have an ongoing, like I'm not writing a song a day at this point, but yeah, I mean,
right.
It's one of those things, right? Like if you feel like you have a gift to give, then it's sort of incumbent on you to really dig deep and to offer it in a really sincere way, back out into the world. So in that regard, that idea of sort of just channeling songs, it's like there was some discipline put into this and some focus,
right?
And there was an end goal in mind of getting together with some friends when it was safe to do so and recording some of these songs. But otherwise, it's just you're kind of just sharing another layer of yourself, I guess, as it were, so I'm happy to do that. So thank you.
Oh, well, yeah. And your humbleness is always so appreciated as well. I'm curious, how many rehearsals did you have then?
We just had the one.
Just the one.
Yeah. We just had one. Yeah.
So there was some magic happening there for sure. And you had some stellar players like James Gizzy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So James, my buddy Benny came down from Ottawa. My buddy Bob from Welland. You might have heard of him.
Oh yeah. Bob. I'm going to have him on the show. We wrote some songs together. And guess what? I got a suitcase stolen up north when I was in Thunder Bay. And our songs got taken away. So I guess they weren't meant to be.
Oh, that's interesting to think, where they might be now, though, and if they were disposed of or if they've been given new life.
Oh, Brandon, there was sketches in there that I sketched in New York City on my first trip there. Poetry I had written for years. And I just chalked it up to like some sort of cathartic experience where it had to be released. And maybe it brought someone inspiration.
Yeah. And, sometimes it is a matter of kind of just fully letting go. Whether you're talking about an art project or, like you said, reflective pieces of poetry or something, just shedding that skin, starting fresh and just being like future focused. Here we go. So, well,
that's kind of why I put my first album out there into the world, and you kindly, we hardly knew each other, but you drove out to the Crystal Chandelier and you were the opening act. You set such a beautiful tone for it. Yeah. And I just always appreciate that. And I think the first time we met, you and I really shared a passion and a desire for helping people get food, basically, in simple terms, that nobody should starve. Nobody should go without shelter. Nobody should go without clothing. And I'm really excited about this because I can see some, different ways of fundraising. I know that if you purchase Mave's Variety online, which is quite easy to do, everybody, you just go to brandonagnew.com, click music, and buy the album. And you can basically pay whatever you want from $9.99 up. And a percentage of that goes to the, in Niagara Falls, it's, what is the organization?
Most people know it as the Soup Kitchen, but it's called Niagara Falls Community Outreach. So I was on their board for about a year and a half, and I just thought since I have a connection to them, they're also starting to grow their own food, which I think is really transformative and powerful. So I've been donating $2 from every album sold. So I was able to give them a donation last week, and, as albums continue to sell, if they continue to sell, I'm hoping that I can continue to do that. So,
well, my mom always says you don't say if, you have to say when.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, good. Should we re-record that last piece then?
No, think it's good. I think it's a
Beckham,
good
Jesse?
reminder.
Can you punch us in there? I'll say it will pause, and then I'll just say when, and then you just replace my previous if with a when.
Yeah,
Ready?
Right.
1, 2, 3.
100%.
When? Okay, now we'll go back, Rita.
I
Go ahead.
think that's a good food for thought. And I remind my daughter of that. And you know how many times I heard that when I was a child? I'm like, come on, mom. But it is true. Like, you know, you can change your thought, change your destiny to a certain extent. A certain extent. I wanted to mention also that I'm a graphic designer by trade, so I spend most of my days, Monday to Friday, sitting at my computer. And a couple summers ago, I was having one of those moments where I was like, I just feel like a design robot. I need a change. And then all of a sudden, ding, Brandon, do you want to play some songs at a community garden? Whoa, I was right over there. It was that same day, wasn't it? It was
you got there before I even asked.
Yeah, I was already there. I had my hippie dress on. Had business, Rita. But what a beautiful, beautiful garden that was. And is that still going on?
Yeah, we actually. So it's the garden in Centennial Gardens, which is currently there's a proposal to get it renamed to Pierpoint Park, named after Richard Pierpoint, who was the first Black settler in the Meryton ward and who was given all of that land from Upper Canada for fighting 2 wars. He fought his second war at the age of 68 years old. He fought in the War of 1812. And I know all that from a presentation that this woman named Rochelle Bush did from the Salem Chapel. So that park is super interesting. And the garden that you're talking about is, the community garden in what's right now known as Centennial Gardens. And there's 50 plots, and actually, huge shout out to the group that just added more accessible plots specifically for women that utilize the services at Westview Center for Women. And they need, a safe place in the community to go and garden. So it addresses food security and it improves people's mental and physical health. And I always say, like, community gardening a lot of times is more about the community than the gardening.
Really?
I think that was definitely, sort of my takeaway, is that we just organized a pop-up lunch in the park just to show people that, we can use public spaces in a variety of ways. So thank you for being there that day.
Right. Oh, thanks. I mean, I guess we should also let people know that you aren't just this music maker extraordinaire. You do work in community development for the city of St. Catharines, right?
I work for public health.
It's public health.
It's public health. Yeah.
It's public health.
Yeah.
So as far as volunteers go, my daughter and I would love to. How do people go about signing up to volunteer?
There's never a shortage of things to do in a community. And in terms of gardening, I do a lot of really great work with the Niagara Community Garden Network. They're funded through the United Way. And shout out to my friend Aaron, who coordinates that and is really just trying to grow gardens anywhere and everywhere across Niagara. And then specifically to look at, equity sort of measures, meaning, who should those gardens really be, those opportunities for gardening really be sort of afforded and given to. And a lot, that's kind of where our work kind of intersects, because I work with a lot of people that are living with the effects of poverty. Right. So community gardening, is great. And also it is really transformative and powerful. So that's where I would say if you and your daughter were looking to get, out into the community, as it were, specifically around gardening, I would say check out the Niagara Community Garden Network.
That's beautiful. I know when I worked for Shelter House Thunder Bay up north, my boss then always said there's a fine line between us and them. Everybody's one paycheck away. And I think this pandemic has really maybe hit home, hopefully with more people than pre-pandemic. And that's my hope, that people do realize the importance of not overindulging, sharing, and building community. So it's great to know that there are some of these resources out there. I think gardening is a beautiful way to be able to share. I was out gardening with my mom, social distanced, of course, and she brought over a ton of plants from her neighbor that day. And then Laurel Minnis's, the great Laurel Minnis. And we'll have her on our show next. I can't wait to share her song with y'all. But her mother, who I sing backup with in Minuscule, Laurel's brainchild, she dropped by with a bunch of bread. And it was that perfect moment where we needed a home for all these flowers. And she came with all this bread. And it was just that perfect moment of sharing. And I thought, I'd love to be able to do something like that in a larger capacity. And maybe we can talk about ways we can work together. But my next question is basically asking you you know that I've hosted some house concerts pre-pandemic. And I'm looking at starting it up really small, maybe only 7 chairs to start. You got to bring your own Timmies. You can't use my washroom, that sort of thing. But I'm wondering if you'd like to share some of your songs with us in your driveway, or my driveway. Yeah, not your driveway.
Yeah, for sure. That would be great. And everybody's super excited to get back to doing that kind of stuff again, right? Like living.
Right. And perhaps we can then do by donation, something to that effect, because it's going to be a quick one and only a certain amount of seats. So potentially we can give back to the soup kitchen and the Hope Center, maybe split the funds or something. I think that would be great.
Groovy. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let you know when. I don't know when. We got to call the government right now. Government?
Yeah. Just 1-800.
Can you call the government?
1-800 government and see what they say.
I'll get the government on the line. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Because that's super easy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Hello, government. Well, I actually kind of wrote an also Dear Government letter, sent it anonymously going, where are the benefits for single moms through a pandemic? But nobody got back to me. I've written to Oprah, Joni Mitchell. Nobody gets back to me. I don't understand. They're great letters, but... Oh, well.
I mean, not to interject too much, but I should say there too, like the Niagara Poverty Reduction Network does do a lot of public education and advocacy around those kinds of topics. And so if anybody that's listening to this wants to get more involved, whether it's just learning about some new things, what governmental policies, all the way through to local charity efforts, or if you want to join like a priority table and sort of figure out how you can contribute to addressing poverty in Niagara, the Poverty Reduction Network is a great way to get involved.
I didn't know that you were involved with that. I just thought you did music. So that's really interesting. And I like that a lot.
Yeah. So I get to do that through my work. And, it's like maybe Rita's email doesn't get addressed and followed up on, but maybe 1,000 Rita type emails does, So it's like, socialize, organize, mobilize, if we
probably didn't even send it to the right address, right? Like it was just one of those Rita ramble moments. Okay, let's be honest.
The government at gmail.com.
To get me the right address. Yeah. What was that, Beckham?
The government at gmail.com.
That's right.
Exactly. Why is this not working? Oh, maybe I sent it to MySpace by accident.
.ca. It was supposed to be .ca, Rita.
I sent it through my old MySpace account. No, speaking of MySpace, okay, I got to tell you something funny here. When I moved to Niagara, MySpace was a big thing. So that was 14 years ago or so. And my favorite band that I found before I knew anybody here was the Adores. Aren't you?
They were cute. Remember them 14 years ago? They're a bunch of cute-faced boys.
Who
making cute-faced boy music
of the Adores?
Well, CD we've already talked about, and Bob we've already talked about, and Eddie we've already talked about, and me, and we just got together.
The 4 of you.
Yeah, we just made folk music and.
I just remember this smoky blue photo of you all backed onto a wall. And I was like, who are these guys? And your music? Like, can we listen to the Adores anywhere?
Yeah, well, you try the MySpace page.
I don't know if that works. Is MySpace still up?
Did you know that it is still up, but they got like everything before 2016 got wiped. So like,
oh,
yeah, someone Someone messed up at MySpace.
Are you serious?
Probably Tom. Must have been Tom.
50 million tracks and 14 million artists.
Are you're just researching that right now? You're so quick.
Because I heard about it before, like I heard about it recently, but in 2019, yeah.
Well, there were bluesy undertones to The Adores. And who wrote the songs for that? Was it a collective?
Well, CD wrote songs, and CD and I were living together in London when we were going to Western. And so CD and I have always written songs individually, and he has always been really prolific and disciplined with his songwriting. And so CD has always had songs, and then I had some songs. And so we were the two, songwriters, and then Eddie and Bob, helped us to bring the songs to life.
Right. Yeah. So I know that you wrote the majority of songs for this album in New Orleans?
No, this album was all pandemic. Like, hey, the pandemic's happening. Brandon should start doing something with his spare time. Brandon decides to write songs. That's what you get with Mave's Variety.
So that entire album was written during COVID?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and probably, like, not this means much of anything, but probably I'm thinking about it now because I've been asked that question a few times, is like probably all those songs were written in about a 1 month span, like more or less, really. Yeah.
Okay. Because I read your bio about New Orleans and you said you tucked a bunch of songs into a suitcase. Yeah. So where are those songs?
So I did an EP back in 2010 called NOLA, so New Orleans, Louisiana, and that's got 6 tracks on it. Those were songs that I wrote down in New Orleans and then recorded back I was living in Ottawa. I was living on the Quebec side of Ottawa. So I recorded those in Chelsea, Quebec with an Ottawa ensemble of friends, including Benny, who came down to record this new batch.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to check that out for sure. My apologies, I haven't already. But
I have. So.
Yeah. Oh, you checked out that one?
Yeah, I like that one. I really like In the Hot Louisiana Sun. Yeah.
Yeah, groovy. Yeah.
I have heard that song though. Did you do a video of that song?
No.
No, that one is he did Bulletproof, a video for Bulletproof.
I did see that video, and that must have been fun filming. Was that primarily in Toronto or Hamilton?
Yeah, that was Toronto. Joe Circuzzi and I were on the phone for about an hour trying to think, hey, should we do a video, blah, blah, blah. And Joe's like, sure. Like, Joe's always like, yeah, we can. And then I hung up the phone, and it was like 4:00 on a Saturday. And I said to Joe, should I just drive to Toronto right now? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I get to Toronto at 5. We shoot outdoors in an alleyway until about 7:30. Then me, him, and Sam got Indian food. And then the next day on a Sunday at like noon, he messages me and sends me a 20-second clip. And I'm like, oh, that's looking good. Like, you got that clip together fast. And he's like, clip? He's like, buddy, this thing will be done in an hour. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you find a way to move at a lightning speed. You are incredible.
Maybe you're not human,
it's plausible theory.
It's a plausible theory.
Yeah.
My favorite songs on the album, I really love Rollin' Fever and There Goes Another Heartache. I just kind of went and played them back a couple times and then went through the whole album again and again and again. And it's such great listening. Like I said earlier, you picked Trouble for this interview. And is this your favorite song on the album? Why did you choose it?
Yeah, I think it might be my favorite. I wrote 2 songs on this album for friends. So I wrote a song for my buddy Robbie, who passed away 5 years ago. And I wrote a song for our friend Angie, who had just passed away about a week ago. So those songs, thank you. So are we. And so those songs are, sentimentally like completely embedded, but Trouble, I think is probably one of my favorites because it feels like kind of an ode to Lucinda Williams, like how she writes songs. And I also feel like
Lucinda.
Yeah, and I also feel like I don't, I've never done a master's or anything like that academically, but if I would, this would kind of be like my thesis. Like, these are the troubled kind of observations that I saw from 2020, starting with the wildfires in Australia, all the way through to, He Who Shall Not Be Named, and all the stuff that played out last summer, troubled streets, full of troubled daughters, stuff that I see in my day to day and that we've already touched on here today.
Trouble when the rich get richer.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. And I do love the thunder up north and thunder down under.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a little
And I
reference.
love your phrasing on some of the words. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. It was all one take. What you see is right.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we have this moment and we just got to bang it out, right?
Yeah. Just zone
and
in.
so why Mave's Variety? Is that a store that you go to all the time?
I've only been in there actually probably once or twice, but it's a store that to me feels like the heart of downtown Hamilton.
Okay.
And it's still like, Little Portugal. There's still remnants of Little Portugal. James Street has been gentrifying, changing, whatever terminology you want to use over the last while. But that there's, it's still flanked by Portuguese shops that still sell flowers and produce out on the sidewalks, and you can get really good olives inside and salted fish and stuff like that. So it's a part of Hamilton that I hope is really never lost. And there's just this variety store that, I don't know, just grabbed my attention. And
I wonder if they've even heard.
Well, once I get some physical CDs made up, I'm going to go drop some off to them and say, hey, I made an album and I named it after your store. Yeah.
So that was my next question. When are these physical CDs? Because I love something tangible.
Yeah. And, let's be honest here, Rita, we've given Joe Sarkozy a lot of credit today, but for whatever reason, he's dragging his feet and he's not getting me the graphic design things that I need.
Maybe you should hire another graphic designer.
Like, what is it? This guy's working free of charge and he's not meeting my deadlines anymore.
He's a bit of a ball buster, so he deserved that.
Yeah. So everything's been moving at a good pace. That's the next project to do. And as soon as we're allowed to physically see each other, more safely, then I'll be able to actually hand the CDs out and say hi to people that I love. So
some of your other musical influences I'd love to know. I know you love Lucinda. Mm-hmm. I cover her all the time, but who would be some others?
Well, last year I listened to, I went through a big Spoon phase last year, and up until today, I've been listening to JJ Cale an awful lot.
He's great.
He's really, really, really great.
Yeah, super prolific.
Yeah. And Canadian musicians, like I really like Paul Reddick, who won the Blues Juno a couple years ago. Just, guy based in Toronto, plays really great harp, but also has really thoughtful blues lyrics and puts together really great albums. So yeah, I'd say that those are some of my influences.
I'm going to have to listen to that.
Can I just say, I really like, speaking of influences, your Spotify description where you talk about like all the places you've been and how that has influenced your music. Like you talk about Niagara Falls and then Ottawa and your neighbor who was from Romania. And then you talk about Wakefield and Kemptville. And then you talk about New Orleans where you recorded your EP. Or no, you wrote your EP.
Yep.
And then where you end up in Hamilton during a global pandemic. I really like that a lot.
Thanks, Beckham.
That's really interesting.
A follow-up question for you. Do you want to be my agent?
I know, this kid's going places. I tell you. The line on your website, legend has it, if musicians spend enough time around the roaring waters of Niagara Falls, they end up making music in various shades of blue.
Yeah.
I love that. It really resonates. I write very sad songs. And there's someone knocking at my window.
Well, that's an interesting place to knock.
Dad, I'm recording an interview.
I love it.
It's okay.
It's on the road.
That's great.
Oh gosh. I told them not to come. Okay.
That's okay.
Give me 2 minutes?
Love it.
Yeah. I don't know, 75-year-old people just do what they want no matter what.
Yeah, as they should. As they should.
As they should.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the line on your website. Legend has it, if musicians spend enough time around the warring waters of Niagara Falls, they end up making music in various shades of blue. How true. I know so many excellent music makers here that have the saddest songs that always have a little sprinkle of hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think blue is a great color, like in terms of the spectrum and in terms of sort of like a way of life and a way of thinking. And it could go to those depths of sadness. But I think, when we look to the sky and the sky is blue, that also gives us hope. So I think blue kind of gives us that full picture, from one single hue, which is kind of interesting.
For sure. Yeah, it is very, very interesting to me. I mean, when I moved here, I could feel a heaviness in certain parts of the falls, of course. There was a really also, there was like this juxtaposition of the shades of blue along with this community of people that just wanted to elevate the vibration, right? And so that in itself inspired me. And these songs just, started spitting out of me. And I caught the bug just as, not as many songs as other music makers, because I know Carl can write hundreds of songs. Bob can write hundreds of songs. Sounds like you can write hundreds of songs. I guess you just have to spend more time around the water, the falls.
Yeah, I think in terms of, that being the place that I grew up in and, you get to those adolescent years and you start to really try to mark out your identity and what do you want to maybe start to do with the rest of your life. And I think, Niagara had that sense of community, and that community was always, resisting and pushing back to a lot of the corporate elements of Niagara Falls, but also just saying like, hey, we deserve our own slice of the pie, as it were. Like if you build a community space around arts and culture, people from all over the world are naturally coming here, to get a glimpse of this majestic, natural wonder. Let's also give them a piece of who we are as a collective identity kind of while they're here. Like there's a way to make that fit the consumerist sort of agenda of Niagara Falls. So it was just, I always appreciated sort of that tug of war taking place.
For sure. I've always seen downtown, the old Queen Street, as a New Orleans or Nashville. I was on Broadway in Nashville a few years ago, and I thought, music has the power to heal. It really does. Art has the power to heal. I know when I play outdoor shows, it travels across the canal here in Welland, and people have smiled and come and said, thank you so much for sharing that. And to be able to hear live music again, I think it's going to really, really help with people's frame of mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I think it does lift people's spirits. We know that. And also, let's continue to find ways to make it more and more viable for people to really invest their time and energy and talents into it, because it doesn't come cheap, and it shouldn't come cheap on the receiving end as well. Right. So it can't just be, we can't just, sort of like break it down to the lowest common denominator and say, well, I guess we'll just allow people to apply for a $70 busker license. And then they can, it's not like any musician really rolling over and making like, hand over fist money. But if you could help some people in Niagara or any community stabilize an income, and if they were offering original, thought-provoking music, I think that's a great thing to augment the local economy.
I really
completely
do.
Biased.
yeah. But you know what? I'm glad you brought up that point, because my album years ago, and it cost a couple grand. I just made $2.99 on a download the other day. And I was overjoyed. And then I went, what?
All
and
right.
then whereas the father of my child, he's a fantastic artist, right? He sells his pieces, you know, but he can sometimes, granted, like some of them take weeks, but some of them can be whipped off, right? And where is the value, like, because he can sell them for big prices, right? And that sort of thing. And I've always wondered about the balance of music. And
can I say, with the balance of music, it's a lot harder now because everyone's streaming, right? So you're relying on a lot of listeners and for your stuff to really get out there, because there's not as many people paying upfront for it.
Yeah, and I mean, to go back to that lyric from Trouble, like when the rich get richer, like we're also talking about, global giants that have completely figured out the game. So it's like Spotify is the Walmart of 25 years ago when Walmart was just coming on the scene. So like artists, now are saying, hey, like, it might appear good for you, like downloading it on your phone or your computer at home and just demanding any sort of, song or album that you want at any given time. But the behind the scenes, I've been telling people like, they're like, hey, I listened to your song on Spotify. I said, cool, do it 25 million times more so I can make $5, please. Like, and I'm in a super privileged position where like, my day job is a good paying job.
But there's a lot of people who can't do that, right? They need those listeners on Spotify. Fair.
Yeah. So, just try to find a better balance, I think, is all people are really asking for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to, not be asked so much to always play donation gigs. I don't mind playing donation gigs, but there came a point where it was just, that's all it was, right? Around the region. So I kind of just became a hermit and went, I'm just going to write songs and, have my own. And then that's how the fruition of the house concerts came to be, where, I could have more community involvement. And house concerts, I don't know if you've been to one, but they're such a beautiful, intimate feeling because it's just you can hear a pin drop in the room, and everyone's there to really appreciate the music.
Yeah, and we've hosted, prior to the pandemic, a courtyard arts market at our space up in Hamilton and invited artists of all varieties in, and sort of like a outdoor flea market fair during the day. And then at night it focuses more just on sort of that idea of a campfire and music and stuff. And yeah, you're right. When you pass the hat and the intention is actually, we're going to set aside a couple hours for you to come as an audience member to listen to this curated, musical lineup, people will give really generously because those are the people that get it, right? And those are the people that also, when they look artists in the eyes, they see neighbors and friends and family members. So the artist community is completely empathetic and supportive of one another. And I think that that's an amazing spirit to continue to share at the community level, because artistry is all about, networking and community.
And forgiveness, I honestly believe, I think that there's a really beautiful forgiveness sort of sharing amongst artists, that we all realize, that we're in this evolving together.
Yeah. I mean, everything's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything all the time. Yeah. Life.
So you mentioned Niagara Falls. So that's where you were born and raised?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are sharing a picture after this broadcast of Little Bran. Did they call you Little Bran?
Yeah. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because honestly, I believe, and I'm going to mention my mom again, as I often do, but she used to tell me when I was going through troubled times to look into the mirror and connect and say hello to my inner child. So that's part of the puzzle of this whole podcast, showing that inner child, reminding people who we once were before the confusion of responsibility and all, right? And so you picked a particular photo to share, and I asked you to kind of think of a funny childhood story that you might want to share along with it.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're recording this in the summer. So I think my parents had traveled back in the day, probably did some sort of, getaway to somewhere warm or a cruise or something. And they met 4 or 5 other couples. One was in Boston, one was in Long Island, one was from New Hampshire, and one was from England. And after their trip, they all decided to keep in touch as best they could for as long they could. And our friends out in New Hampshire, Sue and Steve, would invite us down to their place in the summer. And so we did a couple of those road trips through New York State and then through Vermont and out to New Hampshire. And I remember my parents in the front seat, my sister and I in the back seat. And, this is pre all modern technology, so like,
of course,
Beckham, I'm not even going to ask you to try to,
you were reading comic books, maybe?
I don't even know if comic books existed then, Rita, like, let's be honest.
Oh, I never asked how old you were.
But so I think we just got to that point where we were just getting a little delirious, and we decided to roll down the back windows and And I'm also 5 years older than my sister. So I'm the influential older brother. And I was just like, let's just try to keep our mouths open for as long as we can with this like highway speed air coming into our mouths. And so we were both just hanging our heads, like not out the window, but like towards the window. And just like, I remember my mouth got so dry. I think I timed it. It was like 20 minutes. It got so dry that it started to just like re-salivate again. Like it went like full Sahara Desert. And then it went back to like just trying to like form a stream.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when they do those like David Attenborough kind of like, the where will these animals find water, and then they can't find anything, and then all of a sudden the drought comes in, and then it's all of a sudden then that's just like the monsoon kind of comes in. And I just remember thinking, this is so ridiculous even at the time, but we were just like, just trying to occupy our time and make ourselves laugh. And
yeah. Did you get some bugs in your mouth too, or?
I would have to imagine that, but full commitment. It was just like, no matter what, let's just see how long we can do this.
Oh, family road trips. There's nothing like it. Hey?
Yeah. It's hard to recreate later in life. Like you said, as you get complicated adult brains and responsibilities and stuff like that. But that's something that I hold really dear to my heart, that memory.
Well, maybe people can have that tangible copy or download that copy of Mave's Variety, because it really is the perfect album for a road trip. Well, thank you for sharing your songs, your heart, your wonderful you with us today, Brandon. And I'm going to be spinning that. It's going to be the soundtrack of my summer. And I'm really looking forward to the time where we can all gather as a community again.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and let's continue to do what we can to build good relations with the Indigenous people of Canada, because we owe that to them. So that community we're definitely keeping in our hearts, but I think we need a bit more action, or a lot more action from all of us here on Turtle Island to really get to a place where we can say, okay, this seems to be a bit better than it was in the past.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes. Completely agreed. Beckham is up north. I know Tiffany, she also started her teaching out in reserves up north. Yep. And so, it really, really hits home, especially working for Shelter House Thunder Bay. It was a wild world of fundraising for me when I realized that charities of the like were competing against funds. Mm-hmm. There's got to be better ways where we can all, I still have hope. And I know you have hope, and I know you have hope, Bex, because we got to keep hope alive. And we really, 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 I'd love to send a lot of prayers out there for the Indigenous community. Certainly. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. So thanks for doing this today, and good luck with the rest of your stories.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are a delight. Oh, what's that, Bex? You going?
I want to mention just two things.
Sure.
One is I really like your website.
Oh, thank you.
And also, so you said you were writing your new album in December, right? But also in December, you recorded your holiday song. Not recorded, but video shot that was recorded in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say that's like, it's a really good holiday song. And I just did not expect that to be something that you did. I don't know why.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that song is 10 or 12 or 15 years old. But then the video, we went out and cut down a tree this year, and so I thought I'm gonna see if I can just record something on my cell phone and piece a little video together to share. So thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's really kind of you.
Was that holiday song the one you did on Snowy Streets?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to bring Snowy Streets back.
Do it.
Yeah, that was a musical brainchild that I know Peter Haverkamp and I had I think, well, it was one day, a couple days before Christmas, and all of a sudden it was that same sort of feeling and motivation. I think we opened it up to a bunch of musicians to share their songs. We also recorded songs. Bob wrote a song and I sang harmonies on it. And we recorded it that day. I think it was within an hour. I love his song on that album. I don't think it's online anymore, but we'll have to put her back up there. But yeah, certainly. I think it's good. We'll maybe have to have you back on for a holiday episode, and you can play that song for us.
Ooh, yeah.
Cool.
Okay?
That would be cool.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, and have a beautiful day. And thanks for all you do for the community.
Oh, likewise. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity today. It was good chatting with you, Rita.
Okay, Brandon. Enjoy the sunshine.
Okay, ciao.
Mwah. Well, that's a wrap for episode 2 of Yore Stories. Man, is your mom a card? Hey?
Oh, yeah. And I live with her.
And you live with her. Lucky you.
I know.
Lucky you.
Lucky me.
I'd like to live with somebody that makes Finnish pancakes.
Yeah, exactly.
I will make you Finnish pancakes one day, Jesse.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever had a Finnish pancake?
I have not.
They're so good.
So do you even know what they might be?
I don't know. It's a pancake. It's got to be good.
It's like crepes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
little thicker than a crepe and a little more rubbery.
And and they can be a little more crispy, like on the edges. You get your
Oh,
nice
I like that.
buttery caramelized edges.
They are
So good.
really, really good if you do it right. And sometimes I like to make them a little thicker. And then the way I eat them is I roll them. Do you roll them?
Yes, sometimes. Sometimes I just stack them and cut them, and you get all your layers.
I've actually never done that way.
Now I'm going to have to look up a recipe for Finnish pancakes.
Oh, you don't have to look up a recipe, my dear.
I have the Hoito recipe.
Yeah, but I also have the Hoito recipe, and I guess it depends who was working at the Hoito at the time.
Well, and I also have my grandma's recipe.
You are Finnish, so yours might be more accurate, but my mom worked with Ida at the bush camps, and so that's where she got the Hoito recipe, but I have 2 Hoito recipes that are different.
Well, now I think we have to do a pancake bake-off one time.
I think that would be a
Ooh.
good idea. Yeah, I always thought it would be kind of cool to open a Hoito here for all
Yeah.
of the travelers, right? Somebody will probably do it now. And then the
Yeah,
world
someone's
just-
going to steal your idea.
They always do. They always do. Yeah, someday it'll come back. I want to thank everybody for listening to us. I know it turned out to be a little bit longer than the previous. And everyone, thanks for listening to the first. We just have so many wonderful stories to share with you all that we just couldn't edit parts out. I hope it elevated your spirits as much as I know it elevated mine. And there's a couple of things in retrospect that I would like some clarification on. And Jesse, I believe you looked into the book that Tiffany was talking about.
Yeah, it was probably The Orchard and the Dandelion, Why Some Children Struggle and How All Can Thrive by W. Thomas Boyce, MD. I looked up on the CBC and found that.
Thanks for looking into that. That's great. And I know Brandon had suggested a book to me, so I'll probably leave those on our social media so that we can share that with people. And the other thing that I was wondering was, while Tiffany was talking about Kangas, and I think we're going to have to get a good picture of Kangas. Beckham, can you work on that for me?
Yeah, that might... I'll try and get that.
Because he was really a big part of this whole episode. Love that little fur ball. So what is the meaning of Kangas? Did you find that out?
Like my mom said, it has to do with nature. It's actually, which makes sense now that I think about it, for Kangasana. It's a habitual name for a farmstead. So it was like, it's a terrain for sitting a farm. So it's the terrain around the farm, I guess. And it goes all the way back to like medieval times.
Oh. Anyways, thank you for taking your whole day out to do this, you guys. And I think we've got a really stellar show. And I'm going to be like my mom here. I need to go and eat. Okay, can we wrap this up so I can go eat?
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. I might have a wrap. Anyway, thanks a lot for all you do. And again, to the listeners for listening. And we're hoping we've decided who's going to be on the next. And we've confirmed. So we have my father with some stories of the old country. He remembers his childhood like no other. And our musical guest is going to be the super talented Laurel Minnis that Emily and I talked about in our first episode. We're in her lovely band Minuscule. So in preparation for that interview, you can listen to the Minuscule CD on Spotify. Such beautiful, powerful, authentic songs. So have a listen to that. And in the meantime, we'll hear some more stories soon and share them with you.